the LLC that left on the dance floor. Obviously, they have to be open on Saturday. The altar, yes, I drive around in golf cart sometimes. Most of the people live in the golf course school is all around. Yeah. I don't need any more work. I'm trying to do less. I'm the most busy. I keep telling people they heard it wrong when I said last month we had 7 meetings. And I had before this pandemic, my grandson always asked me for money. And I pay him $50 for the night, and he's coming in and do his homework. He carries bags in, so he used to love to carry bags in. Yeah. Overpaying him for something I didn't need done. But he's learning that. I deliver I hustled my whole life. They open a can of soda, they drink gas soda. Yes, same thing. Yes. 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 We go up, wait till I'm on. That was it. Second. Yeah. Good to be seen. Oh, the 10 you have worked up. After all the life, we see each other. I was second also. That helps. Yeah. A lot of people on the road. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And you want to. It's the closest thing to a live trial. Yeah. 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 We don't have control. We don't have control. My mom prayed for me. I prayed for my kids. The Irish Catholics. Good seeing you.
How are you?
Very good. How you doing? Oh, hi. How you doing? Yes. 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 Very good. How's Yossi doing? Good. That's good. That's good.
You look good. You look the same.
I feel a lot. Thank you.
You're only expecting this many people? the acceptance.
Did you?
Is that Meyer Gallery? In the flesh? In the flesh. That's what it says right there.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
How are you? Why not? I found you better for this.
One of my clients is on vacation. You don't understand that I'm middle school. Like there's things I can get 20 new contracts in a day. So like, you don't have time to give it to me. Like, you know, it's a bit. That's really tough. But she told me that's more than one. I said, so not gonna be maybe just take someone else because I'm not gonna be gas to be. No, we would. And I'm coming back first. And I'm going to Safari.
Really?
Like Safari.
Funny because I said, oh my God, I know.
It's the mayor thing.
So where's that guy? I said,
I think that's a good idea.
You're not.
Oh, I can't tell me.
I've gotten that. Don't know.
What's this? It's the planning board.
She had Cover's mother.
Yeah,
She's going on the tour.
We're gonna have 5 zoning board members.
I've done this.
Unless,
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
See, actually, the kids, when I talk to them, might as well come. What else is there? Find that. Baby, she got a babysitter. She should.
What are you doing?
Nothing, so it's like, kids have a lot.
Okay. How'd they get? What can I get on?
That's what he's doing. That's exactly what he's doing.
That one for sale, right?
Yeah. What are you doing?
He said it.
Get it for 30 million.
That's on the one. You're asking.
Carlisle?
Well, actually, he was there, but I told you when you told
Yeah, you
him.
told me. Yeah.
You want to know the truth?
Sutton.
No.
No. My name is Sutton.
You know, by the way,
I know it's shit.
we were real.
Two houses down, like at the end.
I talked to you, right?
Yeah.
And what do you want for now?
I want to get a variance for a 30-foot wide house.
It's not over the
Mine is because he spoke. He spoke. Mom is driving.
Oh.
He still has it.
I wasn't calling for me, I was calling for somebody
I
else.
told you, so I said, so I come down to that.
No, I was here. I already bought that last wow. I'm applying for variance, but my wife's friend was buying.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
The variance.
And then 2,500.
That's not counting the regular survey. Yeah. It'll be no,
Ladies and gentlemen,
that you make your lot off the bat.
I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. Tonight's meeting has been advertised according to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli?
Here.
Mr. Lieberman?
Here.
Mr. Langley? Mr. Marcellin?
Here.
Mr. Vivian?
Here.
Mr. Ingram?
Here.
Mr. Rhodes? Mr. Halberstam?
Here.
And we have 2 planning board members, Mr. Herzl?
Mr. Ursula wasn't sworn in yet, so she was.
Okay.
Next for the,
And Mr. Meyer?
yeah, okay. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for welcome back. It's been a long 16 months that we weren't here. It's been a rough year, and thank the Lord, we're all back, and all of us in one piece. Some of them were unfortunately not back in the community, not back here, but it is what it is, but thank the Lord for that. I just want to go out and take a few moments of anyone to especially thank the Honorable Mayor for making this happen today, together with Deputy Mayor Miller and the committee for letting us back into this room. I know we were all very antsy trying to get back in here over the past years, over the past months, but we're back, and for that we should all be very, very grateful that we're back here. At the same time, I just want to take out a moment to thank a number of people for a great, superb job that was done keeping the board going for the past 16 months. And at the lead of the whole thing, Mama Siegel, and make sure that everything is done right and perfect. We had to have skirmishes in the middle, but that's all part of nature, and it was what it was, and it is what it is. Secondly, I would like to thank Jason and Amanda for keeping the Zoom meetings and the WebEx meetings going without any issues, and it all worked out to the best of our abilities and to everything that works. I'd also like to take the moment and to thank fellow board members for being so kind and working with us and being here and taking the opportunity and showing up to the WebEx meeting, some in cars, some hotel rooms, some in hotel lounges in the airplanes, and whatever they be. But we were all here and we all worked together, and I want to thank each and every one of you for doing the best you guys can to make this thing happen. And of course, goes without say, our esteemed attorney and Perry for also participating and making it happen. And for this, I just brought along tonight a bottle of non-alcoholic champagne, which I'd like to pop it, but that's okay. Kelly, would you like to open it? Sweet. Oh boy. Okay. What? Yeah. No. Okay. So that we can all have at least a toast of time. We'll bring us back to this time and for what? And a life.
And a little elf brought the seagull a little libation. I'm not sure that's not alcoholic though.
Yes. There we go. Pass it on to Jerry first. Pass it on to Jerry. We'll have just a little toast for everyone. But it's not alcohol, so everyone should be fine. All right? Okay, here we go. Thank you.
Yeah, you say
I'm told. Oh, you know, we forgot to see to the flag. We'll do that in a moment. It's all great. That's all it is. Now, okay. Yes. Anyway, and I really mean a sincere thank you to everyone that worked with us and had the patience to make this thing happen, and hopefully the coronavirus is behind us, COVID-19 is behind us, and we won't have to do this all over again. I know the chairs are just a reminder, but it really is like, but it is what it is. For this, I would like to ask everyone to please rise and salute to the flag and move forward. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just as a reminder, I know we weren't here for 16 months. A couple of rules that we take, that we go with over here. Fellow board members, just remember, if you want to say something, please don't shout over each other. Just bring it to your attention and wait to be called on. Bring it to my attention and wait to be called on. We're going to have the professionals go first. Pros and cons, and then the public will be heard. The public will have, the public will have 4 minutes to speak each on whatever they want to say. And if somebody has something to say and was said before, please try not to repeat whatever was said before. Just say you concur or you feel like fellow board members, because we have a very hard calendar and we'd like to move the calendar and not to waste time. Moving forward, I will ask for an approval for the minutes for the June 28th meeting. Motion from Mayor Gelli. Can I have a second? Second. Second from Judah Rivia. Madam Secretary.
Mr. Gelli,
Yes.
Mr. Lieberman,
Yes.
Mr. Ribbiat,
Yes.
Mr. Inger,
Yes.
and Mr. Halverstadt.
Yes. Madam Secretary, any first comments?
Yes, I have a letter from Mary Weinstein on appeal number 4173. Unfortunately, one notice somehow got missed on this one. The person whose notice was missed refused to sign with knowledge receipt. So this unfortunately cannot be heard tonight. And he carried to the 726 meeting, and he will simply send a notice to the one person just notifying him that will be heard on 726.
Mrs. Weinstein?
You're gonna notice everyone.
No.
Mr. Weinstein, Mrs. Weinstein's coming up to the podium.
Good evening. Good to be back here. A lot better than on WebEx. On this application, we seem to have missed one person. So what we plan to do is just re-notice that one person. We've actually spoken to him. He actually knows about the meeting, but he refused to acknowledge receipt. So we are sending him a notice that this will be heard on the July 26th hearing. And I would ask that it be carried without further notice. Actually, I'm not, you're getting this one.
Well, yes. What do you mean he wouldn't sign the receipt? What are you doing?
He wouldn't sign a receipt.
Doesn't have to. The statute requires that you mail it to us, no requirement for a freight card.
We didn't mail the certified mail. We hand delivered it to him. My office actually spoke to him personally and hand delivered it.
I think you've got to re-notice everybody, because then the rest of the people who did get the notice, they don't know that it'll be 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Well, we're going to announce that it's carried, and they were on notice. They don't know that it's off. And if any of them were interested, they would be here.
Your call, Jim.
I for one, we were discussing this over the past few, since Friday. I made up my decision that she wanted to know that she wants to carry it. So be it. We have a long application tonight. I have no problems.
Okay.
As long as we're okay with the notices the way it is going forward, then for 26 to 2 weeks, I have no problem. But any issues, please. The one person. To be noticed also. That.
The public was not notified that this was off, so anyone who would have had an interest in this hearing who was noticed should be here tonight.
And as a sign of caution, what's the big deal of you noticing?
Nothing, there's a lot of notices on that list.
I understand.
So it would be preferable, that's how this got missed in the first place.
I know
It's a
that,
big,
we
big
don't
list.
want to come find out next week, there's another, let's just do it on a sign of caution, let's re-notice everyone. Okay?
Okay.
Can I have a motion? Motion from Mayor Gelli.
Second.
Second from, Majinga. Madam Secretary.
Mr. Gelli,
Yes.
Mr. Lieberman,
Yes.
Mr. Naftali,
Yes.
Mr. Ribbiat,
Yes.
Mr. Inger,
Yes.
Mr. Halverstadt.
Yes. Okay, so appeal number Doobie Holdings will be here on 7/26.
That's appeal number 417.
417. Okay. Anything else, Madam Secretary?
Yes, appeal number 4158. They are not on the agenda, they were on the agenda, they're not on the agenda, we're just, if it's okay to carry, if requested to carry it until July 26th.
No, this was the issue where you forgot to publicize it on the agenda 10 days before and it wasn't on the agenda at all. So it's more or less the
It was supposed to be on or not.
So it was omitted on the agenda, therefore we can move forward. Fine. So for that reason, we will then carry this to 7/26. Do I need a motion? Can I have a motion for that? Motion from Majinga, Madam Secretary. Wait. What? Can I have a second?
Second.
Second from Judah. So we're going to forward this with a waiver of time and with the waiver of time. Is that yours? 1364 River Avenue.
Yes, but we sent the notices out already, so we just asked for the notice and a waiver.
Right, because the problem is it was never
They
on
were
the
on
agenda,
the-
it wasn't
But we did-
advertised on the township side, so I can't,
Yes.
physically can't listen to it.
That's fine.
Okay, with the waiver of time?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli,
Yes.
Mr. Lieberman,
Yes.
Mr. Natale.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbiat.
Yes.
Mr. Engler.
Yes.
And Mr. House.
Yes, anyone that's here for 1364 River Avenue, appeal number 4158, that'll be on 7/26. Anything else, Madam Secretary?
No, I think that's it.
That's it for now? Okay. Okay. Moving forward, we're gonna go into, old business, 4181 Brook Birdside LLC.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, 52 Mohawk Place, could that also be carried, that had notice? Could that be carried?
So here's the question that, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do unofficial notice. Anyone that's here for 52 Mohawk Place, there's no application in the system yet. It's not on the agenda, but if you got a notice, do with it whatever you want. So please. Fair enough?
Mr. Flannery, did you submit the application
Yes.
Yeah, it was emailed and it was hand carried today, and FedEx package is also coming tomorrow, just to make sure that it's.
Okay.
So if anyone has a notice of 50 more, please listen out for the 7/26 meeting and the agenda, if you'll be up on that draft calendar.
Am I putting that on the agenda for July 26th?
If you feel comfortable and you're ready for it.
You need to see the application,
So we need 10 days before, you know, these
so
things.
they don't have to remember
No, the announcement was just made.
that.
Okay?
There's no appeal number on there.
52 Mohawk Street with the address on it. Okay? Okay, you're gonna recuse this application. Fine, so wishing to recuse himself for 4181 Brook Burnside LLC.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Welcome back, everybody. Adam Pepperton, on behalf of the applicant for Birdside LLC. This evening, you have an application for a 43-lot, single-family subdivision in the area of Brook Road. Of the 43 lots, we're seeking, we are located in the R15, 15,000 square foot zone. 4 of the lots comply with the R15 zoning standards. 8 of the lots are approximately 14,250 square feet, and 30 of the lots are approximately around 12,000 square feet. I have this evening Brian Flannery to give both engineering and planning testimony. If the board has any questions, as well, Will Hopkins, the engineer, prepared the plans, and I do have also Scott Kendall to give traffic testimony. I will note that this applicant has worked for some.
Excuse me. I forgot to mention that one of the rules are that we don't speak in public, that we would like the public not to speak during the proceedings. It just interferes, and it's very hard even to hear yourself think when the public speaks. So please, like this, when you have to say something, please do that outside. Thank you.
Again, this applicant has worked a lot with the neighboring property owners to try and make the best application possible. To that end, there have been numerous meetings. I've been part of some of them with some neighbors. I know there have been other meetings that I've not been part of, but I want the board to understand, we have worked together to try and make this the best possible. To that end, Mr. Berger is here, who's representing several of the neighboring people, hopefully in support of this application. As Mr. Berger put on the record his appearance and also who his clients are.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer, Mr. Chairman. Oh, yeah.
Yep, want to make sure that you're in,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Pfeffer. Sean Gertner on behalf of Abraham Schubert, Joseph Reiner, and several neighbors who I will incorporate into either direct testimony after the applicant's case in chief or during cross-examination. Thank you.
thank you.
At this time, I will call my first witness, Brian Flannery. I would ask the board after he's sworn in, if you can just accept his credentials both as a planner and an engineer. If you have any questions about his qualifications.
Mr. Flannery, would you raise your right hand, sir? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God?
I do. Brian Flannery, Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer and professional planner. As Adam indicated, this is an subdivision application this evening. I have 3 exhibits on the board ahead of you. All of these have been submitted to the board and are on in the board files. A1 is a rendering of the site showing the units that are proposed, the surrounding wetland, as well as the surrounding development to the south and west of it. A2 is a map of the area showing the site and surrounding developments in a larger context. A3 is a copy of the yield map, which shows all of the existing lots. And in blue are the smaller lots that by right now we could build houses on. The red is the remainder of the property, which has been chopped up into 40 15,000 square foot lots. So that map indicates that by right, with a bunch of applications, 40 lots could be developed on the property. Mr. Pepper right now is handing out copies, 11 by 17 copies for any of the board members that may not see the renderings as well.
Mr. Flannery, are you saying, according to the existing zoning ordinances, 40 could be constructed?
That is correct.
So, what do you want, 43 instead?
43, yes. 43, but 43 better ones.
43 what?
43 better ones. This would involve, some of the lots are smaller, and an existing smaller lot by the Lakewood ordinance is entitled to build a house. So rather than have some smaller ones, some larger ones, we're proposing what we think is an appropriate plan for this project. One thing I would like to mention at the outset is the applicant looked at how to develop this property properly. And if you look at A1, you can see on the southern side of the development, which is the bottom of the plan, there is an improved public substreet that comes to the property line. So one of the options for developing could have been extending that road through, except that option has been eliminated because there's a deed restriction on the property where it abuts it that prohibits any extension of the road. So that no longer became an option. So in order to have an RSIS compliant subdivision, we proposed the extension of the northerly road out to Brook Road. And in addition, in order to be RSIS compliant, because we have more than 25 units, we proposed a emergency access on the other paper street, the southerly paper street. We're proposing the emergency access as a 16-foot wide gravel because we don't want to encourage people to try to drive there. We're proposing a fence on each side to also inhibit people from driving through there where they're not supposed to be, and to have all the traffic, and we have a traffic engineer here who can testify later, have all the traffic come out in the one location so that the existing traffic on Brook Road is disturbed the least possible.
Mr. Flannery, just a second. Are you saying there's a deed restriction affecting that proposed house lot on Burnside? Where's the deed restriction?
On Burnside, lot 45, there's a deed restriction which prohibits the development of that as a road.
Can you point which one's that?
I have a question on that.
Did you say 45?
It's one of the lots in blue, correct?
Yes,
Oh.
it's 45, it's labeled K on the
Okay.
plan of the 13 underside.
Do we have a copy of that deed restriction?
Mr. Gerber, can we a copy of the recorded,
I
it was
just
actually
have-
in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah. Terry, I'm sorry, Jerry. Can somebody go ahead and nullify a previous planning board, zoning board application condition by making it a deed restriction? That road that was put in over there was put in with the intent that when this area ever gets developed later on, it should be utilized as a secondary access to that particular site. Can somebody just go ahead and decide to make a deed restriction and then therefore, can't utilize it anymore? And how do you look at it as far as the previous condition of approval?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, this was going back to 2010, the previous property owner put that deed restriction on, in conjunction with property owners who live inside. We're not touching that, we're disclosing why we can't open up that road.
I understand that. My question is, was a condition of approval that the zoning board or the planning board, I remember whoever gave it that time, gave that White Oak development, the now to go ahead with it, basically saying that there's another way out of White Oak, or there's another way into White Oak from future development. Now, that condition is null and void.
Just because I don't believe it was a condition of approval of a previous application. That
They
was
decided to put in the road. Whoever the builder was a nice guy, there's no reason to put in the road.
That was an application which I testified on as well, and that was put there to provide for access. The board at the time felt that access should be provided to that back property so that there's a provision to come out. It wasn't a condition of approval that it be extended, it was a condition of approval that it be constructed. So if it was constructed, the board cannot put a condition on a neighboring property.
No, I understand the board can't put a condition on neighboring property, but the board wanted to make room for future development. If that future property ever gets developed, there should be a ways in and out to alleviate some of the road traffic. Based on a 10,000 square foot lot.
Just one Chairman. Was Mr. Rottenberg, who was a signer on this, was he part of the application that got the approvals that we're talking about?
Mr. Rottenberg was one of the principals in the application that developed that property.
Yeah.
And then he sold those properties, and he presented an application on this property which was approved for duplex, and subsequently overturned by the court. So when the owner of the private lot puts a condition on it, if he was the same guy coming back, I think the board would have a good position to say, well, it's a self-created hardship.
Who owns that lot now, lot 45?
Jerry, if it wasn't a resolution that road has to go in for future use.
Just give me a second. Who owns the lot?
Mr. Pepper is trying to find out who the owner is, but it's the applicant.
Well, is the applicant the contract purchaser, is the applicant the owner?
Burnside Development.
Yeah, it's part of the application.
And who are the principals in Burnside?
This condition is controlled by the neighbors. If Mr. Gerber's clients are the ones who have to sign off.
Well, I understand that, but well, I know, but it sounds like Mr. Rottenberg, who was part of the original application for the other property, I don't know if he was paid or not, but he afforded an opportunity to get into that, your client's property.
Commissioner Wolford, Mr. Robert had agreed with neighboring property, which Mr. Berger now represents, and they've asked for that condition going back to 2010. So part of the agreement, we can't use that road because of this recorded document.
Who were the principals in Burnside, Frank?
Clement Gill, Sarah Wise, Solomon's Rock.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
There's Solomon's Rock, Clement Gill,
Who?
Galvin,
Yep.
and Sarah Wise.
So Mr. Rottenberg sold this lot with that, who was one of the principals in the prior development.
That one, lot 45, is owned by Clement Gill.
It's owned by whom?
Clement Gill, one of the names I said to you.
And he's one of the applicants.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll have some questions to ask Mr. Gill when he gets here.
I don't know if it's coming to you,
Well, I think we have to know about good faith efforts to try to resolve, to remove the deed restriction.
the records here represents people without the consent to be removed, and
Well, no, wait, you're gonna remove the deed restriction?
that's what I'm trying to get at, that they're here, they don't want that removed.
I understand that. Well, you understand that your client runs the risk of a denial of this because he doesn't have two licenses.
Well, yes, I wanted to bring that up front so that while I was testifying, people weren't thinking about why isn't that done. So when you say the applicant runs a risk of getting a denial because he can't do that, it's something that the applicant did not participate in. The applicant bought the property, he looked at the best way to develop this property, and to be RSIS compliant, he has proposed a road and an emergency access. And as far as with respect to roadways, the RSIS is the law, and the RSIS says that that's an appropriate remedy. The applicant is certainly willing to discuss the nature of the development of the emergency access, so that the board is comfortable that there are no safety issues.
Your client is proposing a use variance of 43 units, which means 86 living units, right? And one access out to the road.
One full access to a county road, and an emergency access in the event that it's not done. And as you indicated early on after I introduced Exhibit 83, he can build 40 by right, go to the planning board and build 40, and which is 80 if you multiply it by 2, so we talk the same language. By right, it's 3 extra, and we feel that A1 is certainly a superior plan to A3. One other thing I'd like to get done with early on also is with respect to the information submitted by Lori Leeds with respect to the application. Again, so that when I go through the testimony, the board can focus on the application without wondering how we're going to address that. And the one thing I'd like to indicate is Ms. Leeds was very concerned at the end of Preston. The LTMUA had previously started a condemnation procedure for an easement through her property. She objected to that, and the LTMUA dismissed that with prejudice, meaning that they're never going back to ask for that easement. This application acknowledges there is no easement there. Any reference to an easement, if the board acts favorably, will be taken off our plan. The applicant is amenable to a condition that this applicant does not propose and will never propose any type of intrusion into Ms. Leeds' property. Additionally,
Before you continue, can you point out where Ms. Lee's property is?
on 83, Ms. Leeds' property is on the very end of Preston Avenue.
On the very end of Preston Avenue. I'm sorry, there's a long line right past the wetland buffer, right
Yeah.
over the wetland buffer.
Over the wetland buffer, yes.
Whatever number that is, what number? What number is it? whatever it is, within that rectangle at the end of the property.
But it's a very large, property, and most of it is shaded in blue in the C1 street part. But Ms. Leeds has sent a number of, emails to, the board with information, and her concern, she spoke with me on the phone, her concern is that someone's gonna try to do something on her property. Previously, years ago, when the information is in there and when it happened, the LTMUA thought looping the water line from one side of the C1 corridor to the other was a benefit. They started the process, it's been abandoned. We will never ask for it, we don't need it, we don't want it, just so that.
If you don't mind, I can see this well. Can you just point that out to me over here? Is it this piece? Or this one? Is it a big piece right in here?
Yes.
Okay. So what's it right? Is this piece right over here? This right in here?
Yes. Yes.
Right over here?
Yep. The initial plan submitted showed a scour hole for drainage in Crescent, which, if that was approved that way, it would have required anyone extending Crescent to redo the drainage. The applicant has submitted a design to Terry. We acknowledge that it's not the best way to do it, and we're representing that per the plan that was submitted by Mr. Hopkins, we are not going to put a scour hole in there. That will remain as a paper street with no restriction. The only thing, depending on the board engineer and traffic safety, if at the end of the road, which is typically done on the end of a dead-end street, and what's going to occur there is it's just a hammerhead turnaround. Usually there's some kind of a barrier so that nobody inadvertently drives off. But whatever traffic and safety you want, whatever the town engineer wants, that's all we want. We're not looking to do anything to inhibit any future access to any of the properties beyond the limits of our property.
If I could just get something on the record, Chairman.
Sure.
We've had contact with the applicant's engineers, and they've given us a concept plan. The storm pipe and scour hole that was previously going to be extended within the Crescent Avenue right-of-way, as currently shown on the plans the board has, we've been given a concept plan showing the applicant's intent is now to relocate that piping and to discharge northerly within block 190, lot 125, which our records indicated is Lakewood Township owned.
That is correct. And the applicant, if the board acts favorably, would be responsible to get the permission to do that, as well as Terry mentions in his report, all the other permission that's needed from Lakewood Township, from DPW, from traffic and safety, and certainly if the board acts favorably, all those conditions the applicant understands he needs to comply with.
Thank you.
So proceeding with the application, to get into the meat of it now, the property is in an R15 zone, which allows 2.9 dwelling units per acre. We're asking for 43 units, and as I indicated, my testimony is that we can get 40 units by right, which would be a hodgepodge.
40 units.
40 units.
Right.
Or this plan, which in my opinion is compatible with the neighborhood and this R15 zone in the area, gets 43 much nicer units, which will provide the housing opportunities. If you look on A2, which was submitted, you can see the other development that's in the area. To the southwest of us, there's a cul-de-sac in the same R15 zone that was approved for R12 lots. To the north of us, along County Line Road, there's two projects that are called out, which were approved with 12,000 square foot lots. Proceeding east on County Line Road to the northeast of this site is another project which is under construction and almost all built. Again, 12,000 square foot lots. And then to the just to the east of us, a little southeast, along Ridge is another property that was built with a minimum 12,750 square foot lot. So the development in this area, the boards have looked at the need for housing opportunities and the applications that submitted, and for Lakewood, a 12,000 square foot lot is a big lot. There's a lot of areas in Lakewood with the duplexes, townhouses, R75s. That 12,000 square foot lot is a desirable lot in Lakewood. It's one of the larger lots. There's very few places that require more than that. So our opinion is that rather than have a mix of lots with small houses, larger houses, smaller lots, larger lots, a consistent design of this nature would be appropriate. And we're asking for 3.4 dwelling units per acre, where 2.9 dwelling units per acre are permitted. That's why we're at the board. To look at the justification for this density variance, and again, that's why we're at the board for a density variance. If you look at the master plan of 2017, on page 2, the background information, it talks about all the growth that Lakewood has seen, and it concludes on page 3 of the master plan. Based on this information, it's therefore important that Lakewood plan for residential development to house its growing population. If you look on page 7 of the same master plan, under vision statement, it says encourage growth and development in appropriate locations and consistent with established land use. And the single family lots are the established land use. And here from A2 you can see in this same R15 zone all the lots that are slightly less than the R15 that have been approved. So my testimony is that this certainly is consistent with established land uses. As I indicated previously, part of this property was submitted on an application many years ago to the board, and duplexes were approved on it. That application was overturned by the court, but it's an indication that, again, the Lakewood has always valued the housing opportunities that are needed and looked for places where they would fit if appropriate. The municipal land use law, NJSA 40:55D2, under the purpose of the Act, is to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in a state in a manner which will promote public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. It's my testimony that this does that. E is to promote the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that will contribute to the well-being of persons, neighborhoods, communities, regions, and preservation of the environment. And my testimony is that this does that. When you look at a density in an area, you look at the large percentage of the area, and that's, if you look on A2, that whole stream corridor that goes through there, that's in excess of 600-foot wide corridor that's going to have no housing opportunities. So a slight increase from 2.9 to 3.4, in my professional opinion, is appropriate in this particular case. So for the D variance, we need to show special reasons and to grant this deviation from the use. And my testimony is that the special reasons are, A, we're going to be improving one walk-track roadway. We're going to be improving an intersection with a county road. We're providing a emergency access, and that emergency access has vacant property on both sides. Those property owners, to this point, have not developed it. Certainly at some point in the future, they will develop it. And that's part of the reason we're asking for gravel rather than paved, because when they go to improve their property and improve the frontage of their property, if we put paved road in there, they have to rip up a paved road. If we put in a gravel road, it's less disturbance to the environment, there's less trucks rolling away the asphalt. The emergency access on Burnside to Brook. So typically when the board looks at it, at the variance, it's either a hardship, and this really isn't a hardship or an inherently beneficial use, and it's not an inherently beneficial use either. But what the third criteria is showing that it'll promote the public health and general welfare. And my testimony is that based on the housing that's in the ordinance, the difference between A1 and A3, A1 is certainly a plan that's going to provide uniform and appropriate housing for the future residents. So, continuing in,
What do you say about the ground floor being ripped out? Is it something about development?
yes, the 2 blocks.
You show me exactly what you mean.
These 2 tree parcels on both the north side and south side of Burnside Avenue, those are going to be developed. We have very few properties in Lakewood that aren't developed. At some point in the future, those will be developed. If we have a gravel road end, developing that road for the improvement of those lots is a less expensive option. I was on a conference call with the neighbor on the corner of Burnside and Brook, and their indication is they prefer to have it gravel than paved because it encourages less people from driving on it. There's an existing home there. They don't want the vehicles driving on there. We're going to do what we can to prohibit the vehicles from driving on there. We're going to put a gate on each end. We're going to put signs up, whatever signs traffic and safety wants. And we're going to make the road available for emergency vehicles. And the reason for the emergency vehicles is if some of that off-site roadway that we're putting in gets blocked for some reason, an accident, a tree falls down or something, there's still an availability with gates being opened. And the gates, we have gates in the senior communities that the police and the first responders have access to. We would provide gates, whatever traffic and safety says is the appropriate gate, so that it's available if needed, but it's not going to be used unless it's an emergency. So, continuing the report, one of the items that we're asking a waiver for is from the DEP. It's for environmental impact statement. And the applicant submitted to the DEP and got a letter of interpretation with respect to the wetlands. We have a wetlands line that the DEP says is it. It's shown on the plans. It's accurately shown on the plans. They said there's a 50-foot buffer, which is also accurately shown on the plans. And we're not disturbing that buffer. Along a stream corridor, you have 2 different buffers. And sometimes it's a little confusing if you don't hear it often, but you have a riparian buffer, which in this particular case, because it's a C1 stream, is 300 feet from the top of bank in each direction. In addition to that, you have a wetland buffer. Most times 300 feet is bigger than the wetland corridor. In this case, it's not. The wetland corridor is bigger. So the wetland corridor extends beyond that. With the 50-foot buffer, that's the most restrictive line. We've shown both lines on the plans. If the board acts favorably, we need to provide documentation to your engineer that we're fully compliant with DEP regulations. And to the extent the board engineer or anybody points out that we're not fully compliant, we would need whatever permits DEP has. We're not asking for any DEP relief. We're not asking to violate any environmental conditions. We're asking to build 43 houses where we could build 40, go to in various little applications, do the lots that are in blue, and then go back and do the lots that are in red. So Terry lists the relief we're looking for. We have 12.73 acres. We're asking for 43 units.
And 40 is allowed, right? So you're asking for 3 more than you can put it down in the RFP.
That is correct. In item 3 in that report, the lot area that's required is 15,000.
One second. Under page 3, zoning and waivers, number 3, lot area 15,000 required, proposed area is 11,033 square feet to 19,000. 39 of the proposed lots lot area variances. So it's 39 from the 43 are below the 15,000.
39 of the 43 are below 15,000.
Okay.
I think the 11,033 is a typo.
Well, what's the smallest lot size we have? It is 11,000. Oh, it is 11,000.
And where is that lot? Can you point that one out, please, for me?
We're right around lot 25, Chairman.
Okay. Lot 25 you're saying?
Correct.
Where about?
Beauregard and Burnside.
Over and Martin, so it's that's the first lot. Got it.
And we have a very large lot next to it, if the board finds that.
You have 12,000 next to it.
No, behind it.
Oh, behind it, yes, you have a large one behind it, correct.
So we could take some of that off if the board is finding that objectionable.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you, I'm sorry, can you point out again where that lot is, the 11,000 square foot area?
The corner of Boulevard and Burnside.
It's that lower corner lot.
That's the smallest lot in the world.
Because on A3 that you've given us, I don't see that lot.
Well, that lot's not on A3.
Those are existing lots of acreage.
Yes.
No, you marked them off.
Those are the existing lots.
Yeah, let's go, but then why do you have all that, that's a new lot, isn't it?
That's the lot they're talking about.
This one oversized, so take off, however, we can raise the sheet.
That's the variance relief we're asking for. I gave the justification in the master plan, and the land use law for that. Continuing in his report.
Where do you have another report?
I'm on page 4, the subdivision review. And the first item is with respect to the 16-foot wide emergency access road that we're proposing to travel. And that, again, is from our track westerly to Brook Road. Terry, on the following page, and you know that 1 and 2 address that, and Terry indicates the township ordinance requires roads and parking areas to be paved. This really isn't a road or a parking area. I understand it's in a gray area, and that's why I indicated early on that if the board feels it needs to be paved, the applicant will pave it. It's not a major issue. Whatever is the appropriate determination by the board, the applicant would go along with that.
Excuse me, Chairman.
Yeah.
I just want to make it clear that because what they're doing is within a municipal right-of-way, regardless of what the board feels as to the adequacy of the emergency access, Lakewood Township ultimately has to sign off on this. And I'm simply saying that if you get approval with less than a standard road, that still has to be vetted and approved by Lakewood Township.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
On that note, Lakewood Township's requirement for a right-of-way is 16 feet blacktop, or can they go ahead and say 16 feet gravel?
Lakewood requires the roads and parking areas to be paved.
Okay.
So technically,
So
it's
this
a
is
design
the right way, so it should be paved.
All right, now, Lakewood Township, again, you're going to be installing a vehicular access within a municipal right-of-way.
Correct.
Next question is, what it be? What should that right-of-way be? Should it be a 16-foot emergency access as shown? Should it be a two-lane paved carway, for argument's sake, that would allow two-way traffic on King Street? Should it be a quote-unquote typical Lakewood residential road that has a cartway width of anywhere from 28 to 32 feet, which includes off-street parking. We don't know. The township hasn't had an opportunity to look at this request and say, okay, something's going to be installed here in the short term. What should it be? I'm simply saying, if the board acts favorably and you grant relief, I want it understood that the township is still an outside agency approval as to that road.
I got it. But nevertheless, if this is an emergency access road, with gravel, we don't know the condition of the gravel is, and it has to come up to it going down the road. Therefore, that gravel might have to be thrown through it very soon, and the gravel will be utilized for anything.
Yeah, we can't speak to how long it would remain in access.
No, okay. So by you saving it, just putting it down a gravel road, that's the question. I'm putting that in paper road, the question is that be 2 inches to 1 inch? And it's going to gravel road, and not a narrow gravel road, just in case you get some major emergency truck from back and forth. I would probably that's 16 feet is adequate. At least it should be at least 20 feet wide. So curb and sidewalk I don't recommend because there's housing. There's currently no housing over there, so there won't be any off-street parking over there. There won't be any people walking, and if you do walk there, it'll be on a paved road, not on a gravel road. There won't be any mud, there won't be any slippery, there won't be anything. You know, there's no curb. I don't care for that.
Mr. Chairman, would it be simple just to finish up making it real road? What's the reason? Why wouldn't you make it into a real road? You got 40, by the way, this picture's 40, not 43.
It's missing a.
Yeah, yes.
Fine, that'll be a discussion. I'm just giving you.
Yeah, because
You know what I'm saying?
If we make it this into a second road, and go for
But it's the second road, which should be locked. It's
Why
only
should we lock it?
Hey, I'm only repeating what I see on the plan right now, gates and everything. But if you guys want it open, hey,
Why not make a real road in there?
that's a different story.
Well, a couple of reasons. One is, whoever's gonna develop that road is gonna have to put sewer in. The lots in the, treat areas that I told you. So if it's a paved road, they're ripping up a paved road. And secondly, it puts more traffic, and I know the way people in Lakewood drive it, I think we all do. It's gonna create 2 points where there's traffic conflicts on Brook. Brook is a busy county road. The county has looked at the intersection we're providing. They're not happy with an emergency access there, but they understand that emergency access doesn't create a second access point.
Right. That's exactly what my fellow board members are trying to say. Now, you're eliminating a second access, so it's only for emergencies. So now we have a problem. We have 80 cars plus out of one door.
Well, the 80 plus cars on one door are residents of this development who know it's going to be one door. So the balancing act here is, do we inconvenience the existing people on Brook Road by having 2 accesses where there's twice as many people darting in and out of traffic, or do we inconvenience the new 43 homeowners that are buying the homes? And that's the balancing act. Our opinion is it's appropriate as emergency access. It's RSI is compliant. We're already building one road for those neighbors, the Creston Avenue, along with a intersection. We're buying easements at those properties where we come out from those property owners in order to have proper site distance and proper turning movements. Again, we have a traffic engineer here. He could give you the traffic implications of that. With respect to if it gets approved, what's an appropriate thing? And I heard the chairman say 16 feet isn't enough. We have in the RSIS two-way alley. So a two-way alley is what the state has determined is how much pavement you need to have vehicles that can go all the time, not with gates, not just emergency, and that's 18 feet.
And
we actually have
that's paved alley.
Paved, yes, the alley would be paved, and I acknowledged in the beginning, if the board feels the gravel isn't appropriate, the applicant will pave.
All right, let me ask you, can I just ask a different question about the C variances you're requesting?
Yes.
I think your testimony is that you could develop 40 conforming lots which would not need a hardship variance, would not need a C variance, correct?
Correct.
So what is legitimacy for having 11,000 square foot lots and asking for a C variance?
The legitimacy is that if you look at A1 versus A3, A3 has a lot of small lots and inconsistent lot sizes. So you're going to be creating an inconsistent development. You're going to be putting small houses in with large houses.
Well, each lot would be, each of the 40 lots would be conforming.
Well, they're conforming because an existing lot that's 60 feet wide by Lakewood ordinance, as long as you comply with the setbacks, you can build on it. So we have, just looking at them, we got one that's 80, another 80, then we got 80, now we got 60, 60, 60, 80.
All right, let's get back to the question. Why do you need what is the legitimacy to get a C variance?
The legitimacy of the C variance is the same as it is for the density variance. But instead,
Really?
well, we need to meet a higher standard for the D variance.
Well, let's, here, 40:55 D-70 sub C talks about hardships. You can grant one by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property. That doesn't apply, does it?
I indicated we're not asking for a hardship variance.
Well, if you're not asking for a hardship variance, you're asking for variances because the lots aren't big enough.
Well,
what do you call it?
We're asking for two types of variances, C variances and D variance. The D variance is for the density.
I'm not asking for the D
Okay.
variance. Let's come back to C first.
The C variances would be C2 variances.
C2.
C2.
All right. Where an application meets a specific piece of property, the purposes would be advanced by deviation from the zoning ordinance requirements, and the benefits of the deviation would substantially outweigh any detriment, and then grant variance for the partial. So what's the substantial?
The substantial is that rather than having a few 60-foot lots mixed in with the other lots, we're having the majority of our lots are going to be 12,000 square foot, which is consistent with the area.
But it's not consistent with the zoning ordinance.
Well, it's not consistent with the zoning ordinance, but our two choices are A1 or A3. And A3 we can do with no relief, no C variances, no D variances, no hardship.
Okay.
So we can do that. We can do 40 lots. And when I mentioned that initially, the comment was, well, what are we here for 3 lots?
Yeah.
And what we're here for is 43 nice lots rather than a mix of lots. And in order to get that with the C2 variances, the C2 variance criteria is pretty specific.
Right, let's read the last phrase in C2. Provided, where it goes here. Provided further that the proposed development does not require approval by the planning board of a subdivision, site plan, or conditional use, in conjunction with the planning board has the power to review a request for a variance. So isn't that saying if you're coming in for a subdivision, you can't get a C2 variance?
C2 variance? I've certainly never read that.
Well, read it.
Well,
that's what it says. What does he say? Sorry, please.
well, first of all, this board and the planning board have granted C2 variances numerous times on subdivision applications because if we go through the 5 criteria for the C2 variance, the ultimate one being that the benefits substantially outweigh the detriment.
Let's stop it there.
Okay.
So how does the benefit for 3 new lots substantially outweigh the zoning ordinance requirements?
Well, it doesn't outweigh the zoning ordinance requirements. What it outweighs is the alternative, which is a conforming application. And the other thing here is we're in for a D variance, and the case law has been that when you get a D variance, all the other criteria are subsumed by the D variance. So, I've never had an instance
Well,
where.
give me that again, when you get a D variance, you automatically get a C variance, is that what you're saying?
No, what it means is when the board reviews the D variance, they review it in context of the, what's being proposed.
Well, sure, you're asking for D variance for density, because you want more lots than are allowed. And not only do you want more lots than are allowed, those lots will be non-conforming in terms of lot size. And I'm asking you, what, you have enough lots, have enough area for 40 conforming lots, but you want more.
Well,
So what is the legitimacy for the other 3 lots?
We don't have 40 lots that conform with all of the bulk requirements of the R15.
You testified you had 40 lots that comply with the ordinance.
I testified that we have 40 lots that we can develop without getting any relief for the lots. And
That's
so
what I just said.
no, that's not what I said. What I said is, those 40 lots do not all have 15,000 square feet, because obviously if those 40 lots had 15,000 square feet, it would be a different application. The
But
Lakewood
you
ordinance.
testified that because some are smaller and they're still within the setbacks, they are allowable under the zoning ordinance.
That is correct.
You have 40 lots that are allowable under the zoning ordinance.
Yes.
But you want 43, and therefore you want a D and a C variance. Only for those, effectively, because you want 3 lots.
Well, because we feel this
Better plan.
subdivision is better planned. And it's my testimony that as far as the benefits versus the detriments, my testimony is it's virtually no detriments, because nobody driving by, nobody else in Lakewood is going to know that these lots are typical 12,000 square foot lots. When the surrounding area is all 12,000 square foot lots, I'm pretty sure that most of Lakewood doesn't understand that all those properties that we've shown surrounding are 12,000 instead of 15,000 square feet, because in Lakewood a 12,000 square foot lot is a sizable lot.
Thank you.
So now we're on page 5, and we acknowledge that the fire official, the township, we acknowledge all the outside agencies, all the local agencies, and your board engineer need to be satisfied with the improvements that are proposed. We provided on the plans improvements that we thought were appropriate. To the extent the board feels the emergency access road has to be a little wider, has to be paved. To the extent that the township feels we need to do something different, the applicant would certainly agree as a condition of any approval if the board acts favorably, that we will satisfy all of those conditions. Item 4 in the report indicates that the secondary access is required prior to the 25th unit being constructed. and I know why Terry put that in the report, because typically in developments, the development starts and a couple lots get in, and not everybody has their CO, not all the improvements are in. We understand and we acknowledge that that emergency access has to be constructed to the township standards prior to the 25th unit being constructed. Number 5 on that page is with respect to parking, and we show a minimum of 4 parking spaces on each lot. To the extent the houses that are built, and there'll be custom houses that'll be built, to the extent that they have 4 bedrooms than 4 parking spaces can handle, more than 4 parking spaces will be provided. We will comply with the ordinance requirement with respect to parking. We're not asking for any relief on parking. Item 6 says there's public right-of-ways that need to be vacated. We understand that. The applicant will get those right-of-ways vacated, or the application does not proceed. Nothing can be developed if those vacations are not granted. Item 7 is with respect to decks, and decks will be provided. These will be typical Lakewood houses. 12,000 square foot lots certainly fit the decks, and any of the plot plans that come in will show decks conforming with the setbacks. Item 8, we would agree as any condition of approval that the items indicated in item 8 with respect to getting township approval would be provided. Also, I respect to the outfall, we need to comply with all township requirements and get the approval of both Public Works and the governing body. Item 10 indicates that Brook is a county road, and we have had meetings with the county. We have an intersection that's been designed. The applicant is requiring easements in order to provide a safe intersection at the where Preston Avenue is intersects Brook Road. The HVAC units will be shown on plot plans, and they'll be screened and located appropriately. Item 16, with regard to whether there will be attic or basement apartments, there will be no attic apartments. With respect to the basements, the applicant is asking for the same requirement that every other house in Lakewood has, that it's allowed to have one basement apartment, and we would certainly agree to the typical zoning board requirements that there only be one outside entrance to the basement, as well as the other ones with respect to the landscaping and upgraded architecturals. Item 18, with respect to the DPW, we acknowledge we need their approval. It's an outside agency as part of resolution compliance. We would meet with DPW and comply with their requirements. Item 20 indicates the breakdown of the units, where 4 of them comply with R15. 8 are approximately 14,250 square feet, and the remaining 30 lots are approximately 12,000. There is that one that's just smaller than 12,000, that if the board would prefer to have an irregular shape and take some property off of the adjoining lot, which has excess, we could make the minimum 12,000, and the rest of the comments, we would comply with the board, and during resolution compliance, if the board acts favorably on the application. That's my testimony.
Go ahead.
Jerry, can you just clarify this? There's one thing that is, I don't see how the application will work without 2 exits, proper exits. Now, what's with that deed restriction? Can you clarify that? Because they can either go out to the other properties if they don't want to go into Brook Road. What happened to that deed restriction? The one that goes right into
White Oaks. Road C.
Yeah, what happened there? They're allowed to, they're not allowed there.
As I understand this, the deed restriction which we have here, which was recorded back in 2010, it's 10 feet across the rear of what's referred to as lot 45. How wide is lot 45?
It's pretty much the full width of the roadway. It was intentionally done so that a road could not be extended, and this applicant can't remove that. If the governing body, petition that would vacate, that can be done. We hear that the board wants 2 access. We'll improve Burnside as a full access, so then you'll have 2 roads. No curb inside.
First, that was the end, no?
I'm sorry, sir?
That was the end?
Yeah, well, this is a 10-foot wide easement, across the rear of that lot, which adjoins, the street, and it says prevent the construction of a road or similar thoroughfare on that property. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't put a road in the other lot and just curve it around.
Jerry, how did they make it even at somebody else's property?
Apparently, the owner at the time who signed this easement agreement, Mr. Rottenberg, who apparently was part of the developers on the other property.
Oh, he was on the wall.
Right.
But not both of this.
So I have to
How far up does that easement go? Does it go to Burnside, or does it stop by the back?
No, the easement goes on the 10 feet width in the rear of that lot.
Right.
It says, shall run from the east to west along the entire length of the land adjoining Road C.
So how far does Road C go?
Probably 50 feet with the right of way.
If you look at the,
Okay, which one's A3?
the one,
Does it, my question is, does it extend to Burnside?
Does it extend to Burnside?
Still there? Still there? Doesn't go there yet.
It does not go there. All it is, it's the 10 feet in the very back of that lot, lot 45.
At that point, I remember on both piece of property.
No.
Before he sold all, when he created the subdivision, and White Oaks, he owned both pieces of property. So at that point, he made, that road part of the condition of that approval of White Oaks, right?
I don't know if it's a condition of the approval. I don't think that was a zoning board matter, so I'm not familiar with that. But
Okay.
the testimony has been Mr. Rottenberg was one of the principals of the prior developer.
My understanding
Let
is,
me finish my question first. So now, if indeed, he was the owner of the White Oaks property when he made that subdivision, with that road in, right? And he was the owner of the property in Burnside, right? And it was intended that later on, he would make a road go through to connect the two properties together. And that's why he created that road with keys into Burnside. Was he allowed to then make an easement that violates the condition of approval on White Oaks?
Well, I don't know if it violated the approvals. I don't know about that resolution. If that resolution said, for instance, you have to extend it into the, I don't know what that resolution said. So, but maybe that means the application, this application has a problem. I mean,
You know, you can't make a deed and violate an approval.
well, I don't know, again, I don't know, I don't have that resolution to which allowed for this White Oaks to be developed. And I don't know what the conditions were. Do you have that, Mr. Trevor? Mr. Flannery?
no.
Were you the engineer who testified for White Oaks?
I certainly testified for White Oaks. My understanding is Mr. Rottenberg did not have ownership on the property in the rear at that time, because I specifically remember many years after that property was developed, Mr. Rottenberg was looking at this new property, and he actually invited me to go out in the field and look at it with him. And I remember it vividly, because I didn't have time, and I told him no. And I got a cell phone call from him probably 2 hours later, and he was panicked, thought he was dying. He was lost in the woods. And I had to calm Mr. Rottenberg down. I told him, sit down. I could hear he was panicked. But
Hold on a second. Who testified?
Did you go and get him in the end?
I told
Is he still
him,
there?
I told him to sit down and listen for cars. And when he heard the cars, he knew where the road was, and he got out of the woods. So this theory is like.
You testified on behalf of the developer for the White Oak property.
That is correct.
Do you recall any condition about what happened?
I do not recall any condition, and I would be absolutely shocked if there was a condition, because I don't know how you can put a condition on somebody else's property. The stub road was put there for a very good reason, so that it would improve circulation. And the neighbors who didn't want the circulation were very clever in, then when Mr. Rottenberg owned the property, getting an easement from him so that it couldn't be extended. And my client is stuck in the middle. My client would have had the availability to extend that, but he no longer has that availability.
Well, he has that availability. He would just have to move the access to Burnside. Wouldn't go through lot 25, that'd go through SRO.
There's no way to connect to Road C without going through lot 45, that 10 feet, or going through either of the properties. If those property owners would sell an easement, which they won't, because they're the property owners who put this on. They don't want through traffic there.
This applicant
Okay.
would agree now to take the 16 foot and make it full street without curbing and sidewalk.
Okay.
Paved,
Yeah.
without curbing and sidewalk. You guys are gonna have to bring it up.
Okay, it's doing
Okay.
Curbing the sidewalk, I don't care for, you know, as long as there's another way, but that's me, I have 7 other people that have to.
The applicant is amenable to.
And how wide would that paved lot be, paved street be?
Well, we would like to do it 24 feet wide, so that when it's developed on the other side, each applicant has the availability to add a couple feet of pavement and the curb and the sidewalk. And just to put that in perspective, there are RSIS roads that are 18 feet wide, so 24 feet is, we're in Lakewood, we need them a little bigger than.
I'm going to recommend that if we want to do it at 24 feet, just said?
Yes.
Well, that shouldn't be the rule of thumb, that when those two developed properties around it get developed, that road will be brought up to the standard.
32 foot.
32 foot.
Yes, yes.
So long as it's not being developed.
Correct.
It's just.
Understood.
Why don't you speak to them now, is it one over, is it every one, or is it? They're gonna come very soon, is it the same owner?
No, it's not.
Do we know
If
what's
it was
coming?
the same owners, there'd be more lots.
Terry, do we have any idea of what's coming in that corridor?
I do not personally.
You don't know anything. Franny, do you see anything coming in over there? What's coming in? We don't want to be surprised later that a yeshiva's coming up over there, or a Spanish or something, who knows what, it's crazy.
Who's gonna rip up the road? Pays, who cares? If somebody else, the new developer comes in, and you put sidewalks and curbing. I don't know sidewalk. But they don't want to put sidewalks. That's fine. Let's say curbing, let's say a real road, protected road, something to be used as an access road in case it becomes necessary to do development. If somebody has to rip up that road, are you concerned about the cost of them ripping up the road? What's the concern over here?
The concern is A, spending money, and the demolition and the disturbance.
Who's gonna, they're gonna rip it up and they're gonna pay for it?
Yes.
That's what you care about, you're gonna be really nice to the next developer, that he should have this extra
I
money.
thought you knew me long enough to know that I am really nice.
Yeah, you're the guy who says you're not,
Exactly. I'm not sure that was so nice on a global.
About these fences.
Not putting any of the plumbing, there's nothing, that's why they have to, if he might roll the.
Right now, only 10 years from now, you know, that's not a full road in the end.
But Franny, do you know anything, did you see anything on this that's coming up over there? You didn't see anything yet, but how do we know that a yeshiva or school or something crazy is not gonna come up over there? So, it makes it easy.
Something crazy goes together.
Yeah. Okay, well, give me just one second. So you spoke about road safety. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, I'm just looking at my notes over here.
Brian, based on this picture of the 40 lots, which would not need any variances from us.
Well, this is the picture.
I'm saying, based on this picture.
That picture is 43.
40.
43.
40.
It left off a little bit of the picture.
This picture, I'm holding is 40.
This is the picture that happens.
I counted it 10 times.
It's 40 the same, no, it's
40.
It's fine, it's testifying to this.
Just a second, look.
It says 40.
Yeah, it's 40.
If it's 43, you gave me the wrong picture.
No, you missed the road.
I'm not missing nothing. I'm holding the picture which I was given with 40.
Yes. It doesn't show anything. One second, what do you have over here? One, C.
Oh.
Where's road C? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is right here.
Okay, you give me the new.
Mr. Kirk, we're getting in this A5,
Oh,
the
there you
A3. Now, wait a minute. Mr. Flannery, now that we see that the 43 lots, there's another access into this project from somewhere else?
That is to connect to a water line, not an access.
It's only the water line.
Yes.
Do you have a diagram, Brian, do you have a diagram which would show, the reason why you're here is because we want to have 3 more lots, make the lot four system, which is a very nice idea. Do you have a plan like this that would show what it would look like if we kept it at 40, and some lots would be much bigger, or smaller?
That's A3. And A3, the coloring is the blue lots are less than 15,000, but they're existing lots. And again, the Lakewood ordinance says if you have an existing lot, if you build within the setback lines, you get a building permit. You don't need relief for the deficiency in lot area.
So the sizes of the lot, if you only built 40, the difference is quite de minimis, as you would say.
I think
1 or
that-
2 are a little bit bigger,
We have a lot smaller.
Some are smaller, some are bigger. But
Correct.
When you drive down the road, you won't really notice the difference.
Oh, you would definitely notice this. When you go by 3 60-foot wide lots and you have 130-foot wide lots on the other side of the street, you're definitely going to notice.
So some houses will have a circular driveway, some houses will have a driveway coming in from the side. It'll be tasteful to have little differences, instead of every house being the same.
My opinion is that if having houses that accommodate the families that want to move into this area and are compatible, and I think A2 is the map that shows what's compatible with the area. We're looking at, if this was a different area of Lakewood, like a 14th Street area where everybody's lot area complies, I would, from a planning perspective, I would look at it different than when you look at this area. The majority of the developments that were approved in this area are with 12,000 square foot lots.
Let me ask another question. If this does not get approved, and you build only 40, then you would only have one road going in and out.
No, we would still need 2 roads going in.
We still need two.
Yes.
So the fact if we would approve this, we're not adding a road, you have to do that anyways.
Well, we'd be at the planning board that may be more receptive to an emergency access.
Would be more receptive to it, yes, right.
Mr.
Yes.
President, if you only had 40 lots, could you reconfigure the lot lines so that each of them had 15,000 feet?
No. Mr. President, if I can just confirm, on a 60-foot wide house, where the side yard setbacks are 10 and 25, how wide of a house would you be able to build and apply to all the setbacks? 35 foot wide. So, we have several 35-foot wide houses.
Some will be 50 or 60.
Yes, yes.
Why couldn't it be reconfigured the same way you're reconfiguring everything now? To make it 43, that you're not having a 60-foot wide lot, you're making it bigger.
I think the question was, why can't we just redraw the
Yes,
line to make
exactly.
it fully formed? They will do layout, they will not be fully formed with a lot area, lot width, front yard, rear yard, all the setbacks.
The lot that's all the way in the right-hand corner of M, I think that's on A3. I see that's the small, that's the one that's 60 feet? That's the one we're talking about?
No, that appears to be 100 by 100.
Okay, so.
If you go over Road C, the JK now, those are 60.
Okay, so show me, I'm sorry.
Where the Road C is, right above the road.
Right, okay. So JK and L, what are they going to be in this new development? How are you redrawing those? I'm looking at JK and L, those are small lots. And the one, they were just saying that you're gonna have positive lots. But in the development itself, you're redrawing it to make lot sizes, to make it the way you want it, just to get those extras, extra 3, and you're making bigger lots, so why can't you just?
Judah, JK and L, is 14,000 square foot lots.
Okay, so he's telling me that J is a 60-foot, these are small ones.
I'm looking at the plan that tells me that it's,
Right, because
142 by 100.
he's redrawing them, those.
Yes, those are just redrawn.
Those are being redrawn.
And Mr. Riviere, I think an important thing on what would look good in this area and not would be input from the neighbors. Because the neighbors are going to be looking at these houses along the back, and they're either going to be looking at 3 60-foot wide ones, a couple of 150s, 100, and they're going to be looking at those houses, or they're going to be looking at pretty much standard 142-foot wide.
JK and L is, I'm not understanding if you're redrawing it and making it 43 lots. The way you have it in this plan here, A3, JK and L are tiny lots, right? They're backing up with these zero, right?
JK and L are existing lots.
Right.
So if we wanted to go get a building permit today on any one of them for a 35
But
foot
you're not doing that. What are you doing with JK and L?
142 foot, they're going to be combined, and where JK and L are, we'll have 2 lots, 142 foot wide.
So, in any of them, you had mentioned that this lot F, you said that's the smallest one. You said that if the board wanted to just borrow a little bit from the property next door, make it a little bigger. Is that what I'm talking about?
That's
I'm sorry.
lot 25,
Okay, which one is that?
Corner Booker and Burnside.
Okay.
And lot one, which is behind it, the corner of Preston and Beauregard, is 17,000 square feet. So we could certainly do something that would add square footage to that lot, and take square footage away from the other.
You can do it anything.
Yes, we can.
So,
Mr. Flannery, did your client do a calculation as to how many lots you would have if every one of those complied with the ordinance? Every one was 15,000 feet.
We did not do a calculation on that. But again, my testimony is that from a professional standpoint, I feel A1 is better than A3. I think the neighbor's perspective on that may be helpful for the board, and when it gets open to the public, that would be something I would expect to hear from the neighbors.
Go ahead.
Brian, any of these are going to be a school or something, or where are these people going to break?
The one hasn't been designated as a shul. The anticipation is that initially the members could, the new homebuyers could go to one of the existing shuls. But what happened in Oak and Vine, where there were no shuls, there's probably, I lost track of how many shuls got approved, but there were like 8 of them where the rabbis would come in and create a shul, and there'd be a congregation there. So we would anticipate the same occurrence here, that a rabbi would buy one of the lots, probably one of the larger ones, and that would become a shul. So instead of having...
But it's not something that the building is providing. They're not providing anything. So
That is
there's no
correct.
rabbi that is going to move in here. And all these 86 families are going to walk through Brook Road, figure out where to go.
I think we all know that if no rabbi is willing to move in here, the applicant's not going to be able to sell the houses. So the applicant will have a chore, and he has many chores. He's got to get a county approval, he's got to satisfy traffic and safety, he's got to satisfy the fire department, he's got to satisfy a lot of things. And then in order to sell them, he has to find at least one rabbi that would move in.
Okay. I think for now, I see Sean is very anxious, he wants to say something.
I'll let Mr. Flannery finish.
I think it's time. Do you have any questions?
I do it. I'll finish.
Okay.
Not quite.
Sean, quick thing, I noticed that there was a retaining wall over here. Can you talk to me about this retaining wall? Behind Preston Avenue? What is that, Brian? And Perry, did you see that retaining wall?
With the retaining wall along the roadway,
Yeah, along the roadway.
we are aware of that, and we've indicated in our letter, again, if that gets approved by the board, once again, similar to the emergency access, that's got to be reviewed by the township. As a rule, the town does not like to see retaining walls in the right of way. I'm simply saying, if the board approves this design concept, again, the town's going to have to review it.
And the purpose of that is to not have disturbance to the environmental sensitive properties, and to not disturb the neighboring property that we don't own. And again,
Is there a grading issue back there?
well, there's no grading issue. The issue is, will the governing body allow us to have a retaining wall in the right of way? If the answer from the governing body is no, you can't have a retaining wall in there, then Mr. Hopkins has to redesign the plans, and we have to resubmit.
There's no issue as far as safety, or as far as water runoff, or as far as anything?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Flannery, just a few questions. I apologize. The first one is rudimentary, and maybe my error. I think you opened up your testimony by indicating 4 lots were at the R15 standard, either 15,000 feet or more, 8 at 14,250. We now learned 29 are about 12,000, and one is less than 12,000, correct?
Yes.
That, in my math, is 42 lots.
Right.
So I lost track of the 43rd lot. Do you have a stormwater management lot? So you
just clarify, I would appreciate it.
There's a spear line right over there.
Can I sit next to Mr. Dasty?
If he pays, go.
It's too expensive for me. I'll stand. No, it's all right, you're on. But I'll use this one. But he testified only to 42, and
Just
this,
to clarify, the final opening statement, I actually think it's never report, as far as that. We can give you a exact breakdown as to what each of them are. We can just read all each of from the plan. We have no problem with that.
if you could, it's just for clarification.
I think if you want to come back to that, Mr. Hopkins can give you a list of.
Okay.
And as Adam indicated, I went by Terry's report as well.
All right, we'll reserve on that. I also want to just, go into Mr. Boyd's report, I want to just talk about the decks again. Just to clarify, you testified that all decks, patios, whatever, et cetera, will meet setback?
Patios don't require to be comply with setbacks. Any decks, and there will be decks on the houses, will meet the setback requirement.
And you're going to show those eventually on the plans?
On plot plans, it would show the decks.
Okay, so that, because representing the neighbors, the purpose of asking the questions is we want to make sure that you don't create a situation where my client's neighbors have to come back every time looking for variances, so.
The applicant has indicated that they're not asking for variances on decks. These are large lots, they can fit the decks within the setbacks.
Okay, thank you.
And I know the board also doesn't like applicants coming back.
Appreciate that. Now, Mr. Flannery, are you familiar at all with the agreement between neighbors and the?
I heard there is an agreement. I have not reviewed it or studied.
So let me go through some specific items that are included in there, just to make sure that they're part of the plans that I've submitted. If I may, give me a second.
Mr. Chairman, that's different than something in addition to the easement?
Yes.
Do we have a copy of that?
Well, it's not reduced to writing in a fashion that, I'd like to submit, at least at this point. If the applicant does, that's certainly up to them.
Again, Mr. Dasty, as I spoke with Mr. Gardner earlier, these plans, as they're submitted, take into consideration all the conversations that the neighbors had with the applicant. So if we have no objection to it at a later date or as part of the resolution referencing the agreement, Mr. Gardner wants to put certain specific items on the record, assuming they're all from the report, we have no objection to that. But again, the board shouldn't think that now is going to be a revised plan to be submitted. Those have all been taken into consideration and they're incorporated to the best of our knowledge.
And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Dasty, I can make that same representation. My goal in this cross-examination is just to elicit some of the specific items that have been agreed to ensure that we're all on the same page. Ultimately, should the board approve the application as submitted, including some of the items I'm about to elicit through cross-examination?
Do you have a copy that you can look at?
Well, not yet.
And Jerry, did you review that agreement?
There is no agreement yet. There's no written agreement yet.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I know the board doesn't like coming with agreements and throwing it at you and saying, this is the agreement, this is what's happening. What I'm saying is, we have met with the neighbors, we've incorporated those comments into the actual plan that you're seeing here. Again, Mr. Gordon wants to read some of them into the record, we have no objection to that.
But there's nothing on paper.
There's nothing on paper.
There is. Well, not that we're going to.
Correct. We will incorporate the comments into the resolution, which we have no objection.
So, Mr. Flannery, does part of these submitted plans include, in some portions, an 8-foot fence along the gap?
Yes.
8-foot fence where?
Can you describe it better?
It would be along the southern track boundary of the proposed development, where where it joins the existing homes.
Where the easement is.
Well, the easement goes across the road, so they don't need a fence there, but,
So you need a variance for the easement fence.
no, 8-foot fence are permitted by.
Doesn't need a variance, okay.
I presume the applicant would be amenable to a maintenance bond to the fence?
Yes.
Is the ordinance saying?
Is this going to be a vinyl fence or board on board, what do we have?
I would anticipate a vinyl fence.
In addition, and I know it's also set forth in some.
Just a moment, to whose benefit is the maintenance bond going to go? If the town doesn't want the maintenance bond, we're not gonna, the town is not gonna fix the fence.
Well, the applicant's gonna fix the fence, and they would provide the bond to whoever the
If I can clarify,
appropriate.
Chairman, is the purpose of the maintenance bond typical construction, 2-year post-construction maintenance, is that what we're talking
Yes.
about?
Yes.
All right, so basically what that is once the development is built and the performance bond is signed off, there will be a second bond that will meet the contractor if anything's found in the 2 years after the performance bond is released. They have to repair the fence.
But this is a time when it's going to take
Over, right,
Stop.
3 years.
No. No. If we were to accept, the township were to accept the maintenance bond for the fence, and the maintenance bond expires, and then the fence falls down, the township all of a sudden is gonna have to put the fence back up. Do we want that?
No.
No. That's why I asked.
We can certainly stipulate that the township has no responsibility with respect to the fence, and I'm sure between Sean and Adam, they can provide something, to your office that would stipulate the details of the bond, so that if the fence falls down within the 2-year maintenance period, the applicant's responsible to fix it. Once that period expires, it's over. There is the responsibility is then on the property owner.
That's correct.
That was my question, the township is not going to be.
Absolutely not. It's not a public improvement.
Okay.
Not a public improvement.
I can make that representation.
Sorry.
All right. Mr. Flannery, I'd like to just, can you describe the best of your ability, the landscaping plan, particularly the tree buffers in proximity to the fence?
But the landscaping is shown on the plans. I think Mr. Hopkins, whose office prepared the plans, could provide that detail better than I could.
Is there any representation that the buffer would be, as permitted by ordinance, Leland cypress or green giant evergreen?
Yes.
Apologize, Mr. Chairman, you have 30 seconds. I think there's been enough testimony regarding the easement that my clients control and own. There's no intention, the representation is there's no intention of my clients to vacate that easement to permit the road opening that we see. The other questions, I think my clients also, Mr. Chairman, relay some of the same concerns regarding the ultimate use of the property to ensure that there's safe pedestrian access within the new development as well, regarding potential forward uses. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Good issue, yeah. Did you see the resolution of pilots approval?
No.
You don't have either.
I don't. But I can say, I'll make this representation, quite frankly, as an officer of the court. That's why when the question is asked and been asked, this easement is to the benefit of my clients.
I understand that.
No, I know, but I'm emphasizing, not to waste time, but to emphasize it. My clients have no intention of releasing their benefit from that easement. How it got burdened is the applicant's problem.
I understand that, but my question is, do they have the right to put these in the first place because of the conditional approval back when that white was put out?
Runs with the land as far as we're concerned. It's our own, it's my client's ownership now, and I can say this, I'll answer the question from 180 degrees. It's not for the board to vacate an existing easement.
Nobody's talking about.
No,
You didn't answer his question.
Yeah, you did.
No, you didn't.
Okay, what's the question again, Mr. Chairman? I apologize.
Jerry?
The question was, effectively, is there anything in the resolution granting the prior approvals on the other property affecting, which would affect the easement?
But it's in the first place.
That's
I'm not aware.
Question.
Okay, I answered that one, I'm not aware.
That's it. You know, the mayor member have a right to make the easement on the condition of an approval. That's the whole question. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I think we can just refer to Mr. Hopkins. He has the other answer to Mr. Gordon's first question.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Hopkins, do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do. Walter Hopkins, HOPKIN, President WJH Engineering. We prepare the plans. To answer your question directly, just using round terms, there are 30 lots proposed that are approximately over 12,000 square feet. There are 7 that are 14,250, and they run along the backs of Geffen. And then there's a hodgepodge. There's an 11,000 square foot lot approximately, a 14,000 square foot lot approximately, a 15,000 square foot lot approximately, 17, 18, and 19,000 square foot lots. Hopefully that adds up to 43.
6 and 7 is 13, and 30 is 43.
All right.
Do it out loud.
Well, Mr. Planner, you take the hard one.
Appreciate that. Ms. Hopkins, while you're up, can you just briefly talk about the drainage and stormwater management on the site?
Sure. It's an underground system of pipes. We've done soil tests in the area, and it's very conducive to underground storage and infiltration to help the groundwater, the rainwater get directly into the ground. And there's a piping system both in the roadway and the backs of some of the proposed homes that would infiltrate the stormwater.
And how does it run to that new north, and maybe I misunderstood, how does it run to that new northerly section?
So the smaller storms are contained in the pipes and put into the ground. The 100-year storm, the one that occurs approximately once every 100 years, would have a small discharge in those areas through a pipe.
But I heard testimony, and again, if I misconstrued, I apologize, if there was a change so that some of the flow.
The outfall location changed.
Yes, the outfall location was within the municipal right of way, and at Mr. Boat's suggestion, we relocated that onto the township property pending their approval.
And there's no adverse impact to the Gafford properties?
None whatsoever.
Thank you.
And then just one follow-up question. That plan is subject to review of the township and their approval?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, unless anybody has any questions, we'll get Mr. Flannery, Mr. Pennell, the next witness.
Okay, so this is what I'd like to do.
I have one question. Yes, Brian. I'm not so convinced about this idea of rabbi buying a house and waiting for making it sure. I think in a situation like this, one of the lots should be provided some sort of shoe they need it. And I don't see a playground either. Maybe they can combine both of those things into something much easier to hire a rabbi. Once you have a shul, that they actually look for each rabbi to come and make sure for everybody else. I just don't know that's what you're going to do.
The applicant has indicated that they have spoken to the rabbi of the shul in the neighborhood, who has indicated, and we could provide proof of that, some kind of documentation as part of resolution compliance, that they have confirmation that they would be able to pray at the new shul itself.
He's going to purchase a house and in his house going to live and
The shul is on the, if you look on A2, in the area that's designated as R12, in the lower left-hand corner, there was a cul-de-sac approved there, and part of that, there's a shul going on.
How would they get there? Are they going to walk out the door?
how to develop.
And what's the playground that he just recommended? And, I don't know if I just mentioned, you know, the playground as well.
This is a stone's throw from Ocean County Park. I mean, you talk about recreation, my kids played there and I was 4 miles away. And again, they're nice sized lots that can fit play equipment in the backyard.
So again, so the utilize the shul, which is, going up on Ridge Avenue, and walk through someone's backyard to get there, or walk all around?
Those are the only two ways to get there. And I've seen a lot of development in Lakewood, and the Lakewood residents are very innovative, and I haven't seen an instance where they were not able to get to the shul.
I've seen a lot of houses that have a beautiful shul at the entrance. It serves everybody. We have 86 families here, and some of them in very nice homes, 50,000 square feet. So we have a lot of people.
Okay, we're gonna come back to this a little later. It's a few minutes past 9. I'm gonna take a 10-15 minute break. When we come back, we're gonna get with Scott Kennel, and then we'll open to the public. Okay?
Oh, they live in there. Oh, yeah.
But she was in
Yes. You know this guy Solomon Dwight? He does everything. He does everything. Well, my parents are. I went to another married Red Scott, my next brother married another one. Second brother. Either way, so we had yeah, Spanish. Yeah, but I went I don't know. It happens to be
most people
I'm very happy. No, I like the crab. I like the food. Well, it's very you don't meet the intersections like yeah, but no. Right, it's true. Yeah, it's a court. Not in that strip of looking stores we rent some buck. And it's yeah. 10 minutes they time. No,
Jerry, can I ask you a question? Yeah, sure. So,
I need someone who and her, and I will look her at. I know, sure. What is looking at my phone?
Well, they're gonna go pay some stuff.
And Sukanna, my neighbors. No, because Manowitz, I was just moving to Manowitz. Her mother was Sukanna. So,
Well, that's what I was just asking.
she's Sukanna, she, whatever, nice. Used to be in Hacker. Yeah. She broke up and started on No, I do 10 minutes and all. He started on the system. I agree with you. I think it was just a shovel with a system. But she used to be in Horror back. That's also fun. No, because my other is Birmingham from Horror. Also lives in I know. I know your mother from Camp Cheer. Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. I'm sure all yeah, she used to sit on my mother's table.
I didn't even look at the calendar.
Oh, hers, right. And her mother was Hummer Green's mother, Wilmer, was a Kim Shear. I was her daughter, Russell was my wasn't the same bunk, Kim Shear. I'm sure the Rock was youngest. Maybe she was gone. Oh, so she probably had her camp with them too. Filling me in things. Also used to be my summer also like they went to regular camp. Lakewood.
I saw you on your phone. I don't remember.
Yeah. You're the guy that woke up.
Guys.
I'm going to let you handle that, Jason.
Okay. Oh, okay, I didn't know it was on. Okay. Yeah, so Scott, tell him.
For a minute, Mr. Chairman, I was asking after if you accept this convention.
Mr. Kennel, would you raise your right answer? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, sir?
I do. Scott Kennel, Kennel, McDonough and Ray Associates, located 1431 Lakewood Road, Manasquan.
Chairman, we've accepted Mr. Kennel's
Yes,
credentials.
You can have on Zoom meetings.
Many Zoom meetings.
You didn't lose your charm with us.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Good to see everybody again in person. But as far as this project, we prepared a traffic impact study, submitted to the board, stated March 30th, 2021. I'll just focus on site access and seems to be the main concern. When we prepared our traffic study, it was based on a single point of access, serving this site from Brook Road, and I know it's hard to believe, but because of the level of traffic on Brook Road, the site driveway was projected to operate level service B. B is in boy. Average delay approximately 11 seconds per vehicle, whether it's a morning or afternoon. So again, the number of homes and the way RSIS was written wasn't an issue of capacity, it's really an issue of accessibility. So again, we came up with this emergency access to satisfy their accessibility standards in case there was a blockage on Creston prohibiting access to the site. Given what I heard from the board and what we've already agreed to as far as having a Burnside, a roadway out to Brook Road, we have sight line issues to the south. There are horizontal and vertical curves. So any access out to, with the extension of Burnside to Brook, would have to be a right in, right out, obviously subject to Ocean County review and approval. So I just wanted to bring that to the
You
board's
won't be able to
attention.
cross Brook Road to make a left, going down towards Bridge
You
Avenue.
would not be allowed to make a left out of Burnside to Brook Road South. You'd have to use Creston, where we have, and again, it's important to recognize, we've designed the access, or the street, Creston, when it comes out to Brook Road, is a dedicated left turn lane and dedicated right turn lane.
So that would be fine, but on the access road, it's only right in and right out.
Correct.
Because of the way, and you can't turn that into a regular dedicated line turn.
Because of the sight lines to the south.
Okay. Correct. So whoever's leaving this property is gonna have to know that if he wants to go to Ridge Avenue, he's gotta take the other entrance and not.
We'll have to provide internal signage to advise the residents that are further east as they're, and guests who are leaving the site, that they want to make left turns out, they have to proceed to the northerly street.
The street.
Right.
Okay.
Would that be something that you have to register with the township as the illegal left turn?
Well, yes, there'll be Title 39, there have to be an ordinance, but again, the first step is to present that to Ocean County and get their acceptance to that. And if it is acceptable to Ocean County as a right in, right out, then we'd have to do an ordinance consistent with Title 39 to prohibit left turns at Burnside and at Brooks.
Okay. Anything else? That's it?
That's it, I think everything else is straightforward.
Anyone else wanna, no?
I have no questions.
You have no questions? No further questions? Okay, so we'll open to the public. Anyone in the public wants to be heard, please step up. You do, you don't?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with, I thought cross purpose.
I'm sorry.
I do have three
I'm sorry,
witnesses.
I'm not up to the public yet, I'm sorry. I apologize, that's what I was referring to, I thought maybe you had
I
some.
do have three witnesses. I'd like to first call, my client, Mr. Kugelwasser, please.
Sir, could you raise your right hand? Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and all you got?
Yes, I will.
Can you give us your full name and spell your last?
Yosef Kuperwasser, Kuperwasser. I live at 16 Geffen Drive.
You got it, Kuper.
Wasser. I live at 16 Geffen Drive. We met.
Excuse me, before you continue, where approximately do you live to this project? You can just point that out. You live right near that road C. Got it.
I'm in the corner of Road C, and I'm one of the people who, when we met with the developers, and they presented us what they wanted to do, and they showed us, the homes where they put them. I said to them that the main thing to me is I'm looking to have a nice development behind my yard. I don't mind you put a few more homes, but what's important to my family and to myself is that Road C stays closed, because it's a tremendous danger as it is. Even with being closed already right now, the way the development was just constructed at those days there's no sidewalks, minimal sidewalks. They'll play here, so the kids are all riding their bikes in the street. Road C basically became the playground of White Oak. On any given day, you go there, on a nice day, you'll have women sitting there with the children, basketball with the kids, and if that gets opened up, you're talking about a tremendous, it'll be a tremendous, will affect the whole community in a large way, and it's a real danger. It's a real danger to have more cars. As it is, it's a danger. Buses have problems with it, and opening it up just will encourage more cars to come through, and more than that. We're already hearing that people say, oh, if you open it up, we can cut through from New Hampshire to Brook Road without going through the whole round way, which is going to make it, I can't even tell you how many more cars are going to be coming through.
That's why you control these.
And that's why we control the easement. Myself and a few neighbors around, for that reason, we had this easement done, because we had a few kids that were hit by cars, unfortunately, the past few years, and it's just, it's going to be nice.
Thank you. Who else?
I got one question.
Sure.
Mr. Kuperwasser, as the project is designed, its current form and layout, do you have any objections to this application?
With everything that we discussed and we stipulated, anything that we spoke about is kept to, then I have no problem with it at all. As a matter of fact, your father came out of my house a year before he passed away, and I showed him Road C. He goes, whoever opens up that street has blood on his hands. Those were his words.
Not opposed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Weiss.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh.
Mr. Weiss is on.
Mr. Weiss, would you raise your right hand, sir? Do you affirm to tell the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
And can you give us your full name and spell your last?
J. Weiss, W-E-I-S-S.
Who's your address?
14 Gavin Drive.
You married to Sarah?
Correct.
What a good guess.
Very good.
Something.
Okay, first of all, we just wanted to thank the applicant as well. That very pleasant experience. Discussing, coming to neighbors and coming to terms with, and making a nice project. The conforming the lots behind us, even though they're small and are definitely nice compared to definitely the previous approval that we've had here. So I think all in all, it's a nice project. Again, Road C is something that I know the board was definitely concerned and looking for ways to open it. It's something that, just to echo my neighbor's his comments, is that it's extremely dangerous to open up and increase traffic in our neighborhood will be extremely detrimental, and especially if it somehow utilizes a shortcut to avoid traffic on County Road.
And that's also why it was important to have both the fence and the trees, correct?
The fence and trees is kind of as a dividing line as well.
And the trees, even though the developer's going to do it, you're going to allow the developer to put them on your lots and you can maintain them.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
What do you write?
I'm afraid,
And that's the same one we're talking about with your.
I'd like to bring two buses, whatever, but it's either Hamburger Schule or Gelbanzer Schule, which is on, they're both on Ridge. The shul that, yeah, that they mentioned doesn't exist.
Again?
Yeah.
It's under construction.
And I don't know exactly where it is, but that's on Brook Road.
No, on which the new cul-de-sac, they said, is going to be where the new sheet.
By
comments. Okay. Okay. It's okay. Anyone else? One more.
Mr. Sherwood, would you raise your right hand, sir? You affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Could you give us your full name and spell your lips?
Avram Schubert, SCH, UBERT.
Thank you.
18 Getland Drive.
And where's that? It's on the other side of the bus. Okay, got it.
Just real quick, you're also one of the folks who are benefited by the, right?
The whole neighborhood benefited by the easement, yeah. Us three are the ones who are the signatories on the easement for the neighborhood. First, I just wanted to reiterate, there's a lot of give and take between the applicants and the neighborhood, and we're pretty satisfied with the final product. I'm not sure exactly, I haven't seen, but it seems like what in the proposal is what we discussed, and we're good with it. The only two concerns that I have, and it's been already brought up by the board, just wanted to talk about having a shul in the area. There are some shuls, there's two shuls. During the week, the infrastructure is already overwhelmed. It's something that should be strongly looked at, to have a shul in the neighborhood. If they want to get a lot, that's great. Maybe just make sure there's two houses with basement shuls. I don't know how the board would do it, but it's something that's very important because the infrastructure in the neighborhood cannot handle 85 people. Because during the week, it's already overwhelmed. There's just no way for that. So I know they said they're going to have someone brought in there, so that's fine, that's great, and just want to make sure that it's concrete, that it's going to be there, not just something is going to happen, that it's incorporated. The other issue I'm just concerned about the setbacks with the decks, it's something that we want to make sure that it's never going to be an issue or concern later on, that they can go for easements to get a deck in the back of their house. I'm sorry?
We spoke about that.
Okay. Otherwise, we're good with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. You okay?
Chairman, I think there's someone else from the public who wants to.
Well, I'm opening to the public right now. Okay, anyone in the public want to say something, please come up.
Miss, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you give us your full name, spell your lips?
Yes, it's Catherine Stillwell, Stillwell. I live at 950 Brook Road, Lakewood.
Is that Kathy or is it Kate?
Catherine, C-A-T-H.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time, and glad to see you all.
Thank you.
If you'll permit me, I'd like to just read into the record the letter that I sent to the board concerning this application. I sent one prior, but I wanted to make sure that, because it sounds to me like the members are on the right track with the questions that they're asking as far as my concerns go. So I'm saying, please accept this correspondence from Catherine and Michael Stillwell, who are longtime residents of Brook Road in Lakewood, as formal objection to the above referenced application. Just as an aside, we have lived on Brook Road for 50 years. There are no properties on Brook Road that are less than R15. I'm not sure where Brian is looking at his developments. I think they are off of East County line, but there are no developments on Brook Road less than R15, and White Oak is R15. The application 4181 will require road access onto Brook Road. For purposes of understanding our concerns, Brook Road is a hilly, curved roadway that crosses a C1 category stream, and for purposes of this description, the immediate area impacted by this application is less than a half a mile long. So it's a very short stance that we're talking about with all this traffic that will be added. Our primary objection is to the use variance. The zone being affected is an R15 zone, as established by the master plan, the most recent master plan. This zone requires 15,000 square foot lot size. The application divides this property into 43 building lots. Again, I'm going by what was previously represented. 39 of the 43 do not meet the R15 standard criteria. Only 4 lots meet the requirement. In fact, the applicant appears to be trying to apply the requirements for an R12 zone with regard to all aspects of the design, including setbacks. This should be denied. The master plan clearly identifies this area as an R15 zone. The zone should be preserved. Presently, an R15 zone allows for basement apartments, which already doubles the impact of the original R15 zone plan intent. With the reduction of the lot sizes on this application, it has created approximately 8 additional homes. I now don't know whether it's 8 or 3, but obviously we've got additional homes than what would be allowed in an R15 zone. Since the applicant has not advised the board if there will be basement and or attic apartments, it can be understood that there will be at least one or the other, or maybe both. The resulting impact to the infrastructure and safety and well-being of the current residents of Brook Road, and this is more important, the future residents of Brook Road are relying on you to make the judgment and make sure this plan works for them. Because of the reduced lot size and based on the applicant's footprint for future construction, it appears that there will be no room in the rear yards for a deck. Now, they have represented tonight that there will be. I don't know what size deck they're talking about. I did look at the architectural footprint that they were presenting, and it looked like there was no room for a deck, and you know what that results in. People still want a deck, then they've got to come to you for a variance. It becomes very complicated and ugly. Where the R15 zone requirements kept, both of these issues would not exist. Nor will there be rear yard allowed necessary for recreational area for families. The roadway access from Brook Road to the proposed community is a major concern. There is only one improved roadway for entering and exiting the community. As the plan currently exists, 43 homes with the potential for 1 and maybe 2 additional residents within each structure, multiplied by 2 cars for the main home, 2 cars for the basement apartment, and possibly 2 more cars for the attic apartment. The total vehicles for the community would be 43 times 2, 86 times 2, 172 times 2 more if there are attic apartments. With the change in what they've said as far as attic apartments, it basically comes down to 198 trips per day, plus you have all your shul traffic that you're talking about. One access. The pilot there will be tremendous. The applicant acknowledges the need for safe emergency vehicle access and has offered to create an emergency access. This access is proposed to be gravel roadway with a gate at the Brook Road entrance. It will be a very short time before the residents demands an additional fully improved roadway. The cost of this roadway would then be the concern of the township and a cost to the taxpayers. And then there is the Cap and Field branch of the Matitakon River, which supplies drinking water to neighboring towns. The applicant has not done an environmental study. It has been said that the issuance of a letter of intent, LOI, satisfies this requirement. We do not believe that is accurate. We understand an environmental study is separate and distinct from an LOI. This land area adjacent to the wooded natural areas on 2 sides. The waterway is within one of those wooded areas. This should have an environmental study done. In summary, for 20 years or more, our boards have allowed building in our community at a much denser level than what the community and infrastructure have been designed and planned to support. As a result, there is traffic congestion in 90% of our town and many other quality of life issues that have been created. It is a constant complaint among the residents, and they can't understand why this has been allowed to happen. Applications like this are what create those conditions. You may look at this as just one application that you are considering, but it has a collective effect. You need to have long-range perspective and planning. That is what a master plan does. Good communities are well planned for both today and the future. Please do not make the continued mistakes that have been made in the past. This application should be denied for not being in accordance with the R15 requirements as the master plan designates. Rear decks are questionable, minimal backyard recreation space, one improved roadway is not sufficient, an environmental impact study is necessary. We thank you for your time in reviewing and listening to our concerns, and we would request this application be denied for a use variance. I'm not sure if I used my 4 minutes up, but I had a couple of quick comments. I'm confused by if you reduce lots from 43 to 40, how that results in less property on 40 lots. I'm missing that. If you're in an R15 and you have 43 lots, and they're saying they can come up with 40 lots that meet the 15,000 square foot.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What they said was they can, according to our existing zoning ordinances, if you have a lot, and you can build a house which will comply with the setbacks for that zone, and that's a lot, even if it's not 15,000.
15,000.
So the testimony was there's enough of those smaller lots in there to make it 40.
But the rest would all be conforming.
Well, I asked, I don't know how many would be conforming, but there would be some less than 40,000 feet. Or
less than 15. Okay. I think that I made the point on Brook Road. There's not a lot on Brook Road that's less than 15,000 square feet. If the boards wanted this area to be R12, it would have been changed in the most recent master plan. It was remained as R15. And when he says nobody will know the difference when they go down the road, the people who live there, they're going to know the difference. So it's up to you. But I wanted to share that with you, so I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public want to be heard? You step up.
Sir, would you raise your right hand, please? You affirm to tell the whole truth to help you. And would you give us your full name and spell your last?
Abraham Birnbaum, Birnbaum.
Thank you.
935 East County Line Road. As I just said, I live on 935 East County Line Road, which is not far from where this proposed development will be. I just want to give over my experience just living there. We're at a juncture now where I have to plan when I can leave my house if I don't want to spend. It takes for, I would say, 3-4 hours in the morning and another 3-4 hours in the afternoon. It can take 20 minutes, 25 minutes just to get from County Line Road to Route 9, which is about a mile. The traffic is very, very difficult, so we're always juggling our day to make sure when to be in the road, when not to be in the road. The purpose, also on County Line Road, on that area, that mile area, there's a number of developments that are ready to improve but not yet built. So things aren't going to be getting better there with regard to traffic. Now, the purpose of the zoning laws is to protect the community and protect the quality of life and their investment, etc. And I understand there's something called a variance, which means that there should be a compelling interest for the benefit of the public, so that the board would grant the waiver. I'm asking this board, what kind of compelling need could there be to justify the further inconvenience, and that's, I would say, maybe abuse even is a better word to use, of the Lakewood taxpayers that have to suffer from this kind of congestion daily. such a complex with 45 units, it's a minimum of 170 cars, maybe more. And I just want to know what the compelling interest is. I understand what the compelling interest is for Mr. Flannery to testify that it's good and to obfuscate. That's his job. That's what he's getting paid for. Or the developer also, I understand why he wants to get as much for the biggest bang for his buck as he can. But I want to know, but the board represents us citizens that don't have a voice, and I would like to respectfully request the board to at least to understand and realize that the taxpayers are suffering and suffering terribly, and there should be a compelling interest to override existing zoning laws, etc. I want to thank the board for denying many of the more egregious applications that have been presented here over the last little while. But at the same time, I respectfully ask to have a little bit of mercy on the Lakewood citizens, and the zoning laws on the books are enough. I beg you don't grant variances where those variances will just inconvenience everybody aside for perhaps the people that stand to gain financially from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sir, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God? Could you give us your full name and spell your letters?
Alonzo Wax, W-A-C-H-S.
W-H-E?
W-A-C-H-S.
Where's your address, sir?
120 Somerset Avenue.
Sir, could you spell your name again?
W-A-C-H-S.
Thank you.
I'm in the neighborhood daily, and I'm aware of all the traffic. I'm aware of everything that's going on, and I would like to share with the board the facts that I see myself daily. I pray in the shul in the neighborhood, and they just added a traffic stop sign on Brook Road, which improved the traffic completely. It's an unbelievable stop sign that did a tremendous. I believe the White Oak Red Oak people is the one who arranged it in the town, and it really did a great job. And I think this application is a gorgeous application, and I can tell you tens of friends, my own friends, who are waiting for this to be approved to be able to buy a home. And right now, if you're aware, I have myself a bunch of siblings. They cannot find an apartment, basement to rent. There's nothing available. I think there's a tremendous need to approve this application, and I believe that this infrastructure that these developers are doing and paying for has to be considered, and I believe all the people that don't realize and think that developers are just taking advantage, they would realize what it means putting in millions of dollars to improve the infrastructure of this town. They would appreciate it a little more. To understand that there's 3 houses, whatever you want to say, that they're asking for a variance. If you look at the whole application and you see what a gorgeous development they're building, I think there's a they're doing tremendous for the town, and I think it's really needed. And the Brook Road right now currently has a stop sign on 7th Street, which I believe did a tremendous improvement on the traffic. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll close to the public.
Mr. Chairman, I just have Mr. Flannery has a couple of comments to make in response to.
Yeah, I can ask you to sum.
Yeah, then I'll do a summation right after Brian does the whole.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, there was comments on adding a few trips for attic apartments. We made it clear we expect attic apartments.
Oh.
We made it clear none are proposed, and none are going to be built. We expect the resolution to have a prohibition on it. So if anybody has attic apartments, that's not happening.
Stairs are going to terminate on the 2nd floor?
The stairways will either be internal, so that somebody has to come into the house to get up there, or it will terminate on the 2nd floor. With respect to there's no 12,000 square foot lots on Brook Road, just from my memory, there's probably 5 or 6 homes on Brook Road, the Stillwells being one of them, that have been there for 50 years. No new developments have been built on Brook Road. So it's obvious that they're not going to have smaller lots than that. My exhibit shows where the 12,000 square foot lots, and it shows that it is a predominance of the new approvals in the area. With respect to decks, the testimony is...
Just to clarify, what Mr. Steele was saying was on the other side, on the County Line Road side, not on the East 7th Street side.
The map A1, A2 clearly shows the development that was recently approved on Ridge.
On Ridge.
And
correct.
The Red Oak development at 12,750 square foot minimum lot size. Also.
Okay.
With respect to the decks, the testimony is that we're not requesting variances, we're not coming back for variances. I will, under oath, say that I will not present an application for a deck variance.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the residents are concerned about the deck? If you put a deck on a regular standard deck, which is 12 by 10 and by 18, whatever it is, are we encroaching this in the rear yard setback of this house?
No, the rear yard setback is 20 feet, so the decks will be at least 20 feet from the property line. I understand the public's concern with the decks is there have been applicants in the past
correct.
Who have come in intending to come back for deck variances. Okay. That was not on 12,000 square foot lots, that was on smaller lots. And this applicant's testimony is that they are not requesting variances for deck. Houses with decks fit, and then you have another 20-foot rear yard beyond that.
So this is a custom house anyway, you're not building the house at these
That is correct.
So, question, should this get approved, which one way or the other, do you have an objection putting into the resolution that no decks shall ever come back for a variance in the resolution?
Sure, I don't know.
What was that? Go ahead.
I don't know if that condition can be upheld. However, as a condition of the approval, this applicant would agree that any outsale, if it's a lot or a final house, will disclose both the resolution indicating that we were agreeing that we're not asking any variances.
Correct, but I don't want a homeowner that's buying the house to come in with this house and say, 15,000 square feet is not big enough, my family's growing, I need a deck for my sukkah, blah, 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 blah.
Well, again, any lot, anywhere in the town, any way you buy
That's
a
why I
lot.
want to ask you if we can put it into the resolution right now, that it will even work.
I don't think that's even,
Chairman, I don't know that you can hold anyone 10 years from now, for instance, coming back to the zoning board and saying, I need a bigger deck, and therefore, but in the resolution of approval, assuming you get that far, you can certainly say that no decks are permitted, to violate the setback.
So now we have no objection.
How can Steve sold this lot, so you actually developing it?
That's not what we're not sure yet. It's not sure yet. There may be custom homes.
If you developing it, then there's no reason why you can't put a resolution if you're not developing it.
We have no objection as this developer, in the event they develop these houses, that they're going to be seeking variances for the debts. And we have no problem bringing, notice no older buyers if they buy a lot.
There was discussion on emergency access, and the applicant heard the board's idea here, and we're now proposing to pave that 24 feet wide, and have it a regular roadway. There was talk on the request for the waiver with regard to the EIS. If the board acts favorably, we would certainly agree to provide any information relative to environmental impact that the board engineer feels is important. Typically, the EIS covers any wetland, any stream corridors we've shown them. We have a DEP approval. If there's anything else that the board engineer feels is appropriate, we will provide that. We're not doing anything environmentally that's not proper.
Can't Steele mention something about the LOI study not being accurate? Can you elaborate on that?
I did not hear her say the LOI wasn't accurate because, and if she did, I would disagree with her, and I rarely disagree with Mrs. Stilwell. She's usually pretty articulate, and knows her. I didn't hear her say it wasn't accurate.
Something with the environmental study?
The environmental study, she wants to see an EIS. I've seen EISs in the past. It's 10 pages of verbiage, and it says, here's the stream, here's the wetlands. If Terry feels there's something additional.
Did you see that information yet?
We do not have an EIS. What we do have is a copy of the letter of interpretation that was done with the wetlands that border the northern edge of the property.
Right.
I believe there was testimony that the line that was approved in the 2019, I believe, the letter of interpretation, that is the same wetlands line.
That is the
and
wetlands
buffer
line.
On Mr. Hopkins.
And buffer lines accurately depicted on the plans that were submitted, and there is no.
And do we have any environmental issues with that?
Not that I'm aware of with that line. That line is good for a period of 5 years with the potential of extending another 5 years. Now, there's something else that goes with that. As part of that LOI, there was what's known as an intermediate buffer, which means that the state did not assign that wetlands, which is outside of the Category 1 buffer, as I understand it. They're saying that that is, I don't want to use the word ordinary, because that's a different definition. Normal, for lack of a better term, wetlands value, as opposed to an extraordinary, exceptional value, which would have been assigned 150-foot buffer. So what we know from the state approval is that they've reviewed the environmentally sensitive areas. They agree with the lines indicated as far as the wetlands, and they have assigned a 50-foot buffer when they could have assigned a 150-foot buffer if they felt that there were environmental issues with that corridor.
Okay, so it doesn't impact then, according to the testimony I heard, of drinkable potable water?
That's a loaded question. Any development could impact drinking water in theory. The question is, are they doing something out of the ordinary with this development? And the answer is no. They testified that they are outside of the Category 1 waterway and the associated.
And you agree with that?
Based upon the information that's been presented, yes. For the board's knowledge, the purpose of the 300-foot buffer was intended to help protect waterways. There's a balance with development, obviously. I mean, you could make the buffer 5,000 feet, and then you have no further development. The state has created the 300-foot buffer for Category 1 water as that balance point. That they're going to regulate 300 feet. The testimony is based upon the plans, based upon building information. This is outside the buffer. I don't know what an EIS is going to tell us other than there are trees and there are habitat that are going to be lost with the development of this property. An EIS is not going to stop that. The applicant does have to comply. There is a township tree ordinance on the books that they will have to comply with.
Fine.
And we will comply with all those.
Okay, so basically, you saw it all, you're fine with it.
Based upon what we've seen, we're comfortable regarding environmental motions.
Wait for 1 second, please. I heard some testimony there about a stop sign. Is there any other further traffic signals going up in the neighborhood that anyone's aware of?
In this neighborhood?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, Scott Kennel, McDonough. At Brook and Ridge, they installed a recently 4-way stop sign configuration with the flashing beacons. They are currently designing it for that intersection to be fully signalized. I can't tell you.
Signalized?
Fully signalized.
It's in the works.
They're designing it. I can't tell you when they're going to install it, but they have it on. It's on their radar, and they are designing a fully functioning traffic signal at that intersection. But I will say with what one of the residents has stated, making it a 4-way stop is help that intersection dramatically because everybody's got to stop and you then have to follow the proper protocol. But the county recognizes this as an important intersection and they're currently designing for a signal. I can't tell you when it'll be installed, but it is on their radar, and at least they started the initial part of it with the design plans.
Okay.
Yes. You mentioned that
be a regular roadway.
What was your question? I want to know if the 24-foot secondary is as an emergency or it's going to be a primary. It's going to be all regular road. All right. Okay. Fine.
Mr. Chairman, you've heard it all.
I just said, well, before you sum up, I just want to get any input into the good questions.
Yes, one question. If I understood correctly, one of the reasons why we want to do this is to make the lots look better. If this gets denied, you can still go to the planning board and make 40 lots more or less the same size, out of 15. It doesn't have to be the way they are. It could be configured to nice lots.
If we go to the planning board, we would have to go for less than 40 lots, because otherwise we have a density. The density kicks in before the 40th lot. The density kicks in at 37 lots. So there are, to go to the planning board, we go with 37 lots, or we build the blue lots that are shown here. And again, the drawback to the blue lots, and you heard from the neighbors, they want to see nice houses along the back. The blue lots doesn't accomplish that. We heard about variances for decks. The variances that you get for decks are on small lots. So this applicant doesn't have the availability to go to the planning board for 40. For 40, they would have to come to this.
So you have to come back here with an application for 40 and nice 40 out of 15.
Yeah.
Right?
Just answer, your 40, the way this layout A3 is now, we were just going for permits and build a lot. So for example, some of the small lots we discussed earlier, J, K, and L, which are about 6,000 square foot lots, they would just go in, I've been before the board, I'm going to go for a zoning permit, as long as we meet all of the bulk requirements for the setbacks, side, front, rear, we would just go for a building permit, we go to frame, and we go build. But they would be at the 6,000 square foot lot, as opposed to a normal size we have, 11,000 plus square foot lots.
Did you say 6,000 square foot lots?
Yes, there's 3 6,000 square foot lots, which would have 35 foot wide houses.
That exists today.
So this applicant's choice would be to come in for the, it's about 15 lots. So come in for 25 lots at 15,000 square feet, and then build houses on the remaining lots.
So you could come in and ask for 40 lots
Well, the applicant has a lot of alternatives they could do, but we can't get 40, 15,000 square foot lots because we don't have that.
You get 43, 10,000, 12,000 square foot.
But yes.
Smallest 11,000.
Which we can change. Which we can change. If the board finds it less than 12,000 objectionable with the lot line change, so 43 would be 12,000 square foot now.
We currently average is 13,000 square.
So why can't you make 40 lots out of 15?
Because we don't have the area for 40 or 15 lots.
If they were going to construct, if they're going to develop it, and each lot be compliant with the R15, they'd only get 36 or so lots. What Mr. Flannery has testified to is that their zoning ordinances allow, if it's an existing lot, lot 7, and it's an existing lot on the tax maps, if they could build a house which would not violate the setbacks, they could build a house. They have a lot of those lots in there, and that makes 40 lots.
Okay. How long is the roadway going to the road? What's the distance from the development to the road? How long is it?
From here?
No, going to the road. No, the end of the development.
The off-site roadway that we're developing.
No, the regular in and out roadway, the primary road. Yeah. At this point, still there.
Yes, I'm referring to that as the off-site roadway.
Well, the other one's the same.
Yes. I either have to measure it or listen for a walk to give you the number.
what's the answer?
550 feet. So 1,100 feet of Lakeside Road would be developed.
Okay. I think it's concluded about the shul. Guys, what do you guys decide to do about the shul? What?
But the applicant would agree that one of the lots will be for a shul. The problem at this point is designating which one it will be because any particular rabbi that's interested. But we would, as a condition of approval, indicate that before the last CO, one of them will be a shul.
I don't know how we could enforce that.
Is it one that won't be sold and designated a shul, or one that will be sold and designated a shul?
One that will be sold and
So
designated as a shul.
that anybody who wants to go in there and buy a house for shul, you don't need to designate anything.
But the concern is that there's at least one shul in there, and we're indicating that.
So that house will not be sold for anything but a shul.
I don't know how we can enforce that.
You would agree that prior to the issuance of the 43rd CO, we would have to give proof that there is a lot that's either been earmarked and or been sold for a house of worship along with the rabbi's residence.
I don't have a problem with that. You know, we're going to have them, of course, I don't know, but if there's a shul there. So,
We said we'd have to go, we just don't know which lot it is, but we would agree that we would have to comply.
Is this part of the
No. This is around development, and then with so many fights and various people come, they promise to be shul, we're supposed to be shul, and you know, as the people are buying within the development, they're supposed to be shul.
The difference, I know exactly what you're talking about, I think before the board on some of those applications, where the buyers were sold a bill of goods, that they then came back and they were trying to figure out how to do it. Here, we're just supposing they wanted to get, I would agree with the same condition, that every sales contract would indicate one of the lots. Again, we're not going to be able to get the 43rd CO, so the board, the township has, you
But
know.
you realize that whatever lot that is, you have to come back to the planning board for a shul permit.
Would have to comply.
You have to comply.
If we comply to everything, we'll have to go before court. If we get the zoning permit, they need whatever they need, we will comply. We will comply with it, we understand. And that gives everyone's concern away, that we've agreed. And worst case scenario, that last house never gets a CO, and we have to convert it.
So the pool would be on a 6,000 square foot lot?
No, because there is no smallest.
There's no 6,000 square foot lot.
The smallest lot is 11,000. So one of them, you know, I would love to say that the one that's 19,000 square feet will be the shul, so they have a lot of everything. That's what I would love to say. But we don't. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Okay. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve based on Jerry to help me out.
I give Mr. Pfeffer the opportunity to close, and I have at least the opportunity to make 2 points. Before you make the motion.
Oh, I'm not going to when you send your witnesses.
Just two quick points, Mr. Chairman.
Please come to the mic. Please come to the mic.
With regard, you heard my client, I will be quick. My client just whispered, we appreciate that the board is concerned about the shul. We appreciate as well the applicant's adherence to that. We just recommend that it be sooner than the last CO to ensure the fact that there is a shul construct. The second thing is, Mr. Chairman, my clients agree with how you articulated the point with regard to the deck. That in fact, the resolution of approval, should the board approve it, should indicate that there will be no decks outside of the setbacks, which would ensure that as each application, whether they be custom or whether they be tract housing, each application that comes in, a deck is designed to make certain that it is within the setbacks in which. Thank you.
Okay. Back to the motion. I think I have Alvaro started to make a motion. Can we?
The motion to approve with conditions that one of them should be a shul, condition that the second road should be finished properly, paved and everything. lines on the decks. What else?
One of the considerations that the chairman brought up about the attics and the stairwells should not be continuous. I just wanted to be clear about this because this has come up in some of the other applications that if there is an outside entrance going from the second floor, which we had an indication, the second floor, that the attic stairs should be somewhere in the middle of the house and nowhere near that stairwell coming from the outside.
Outside stairwell, that didn't.
Yeah, so what have the second floor, they put it aside, those.
I got it.
Okay, yep.
Okay. Are you seconding that?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, got it. Matt, I have, go ahead. Terry?
I know the condition is, there's a shul. Is there a time period or a number of lots that could?
At least one lot should be this. Prior to the 450, yeah.
Prior to the last lot being?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Griffin wants it to be done not at the very end, but maybe midway somewhere, you know?
As long as one of them is a city line.
That's up to you guys if you want to make the motion, do it at the end.
As long as it's already going in the second.
Madam Secretary?
Yes, as long as one of the houses is the city line, we can do it when.
Okay. Yes. No, sir, no.
Mr. Natale? Mr. Vivian?
Yes.
Mr. Inger?
Yes, that's my vote, yes.
Thank you very much.
Good night and good luck. You know why it's 4183?
Senior attorney for the applicant, Yona Weiss. As compared to the last one, this is a very simple application. This application was already approved, actually, for the 3 duplex structures. The subdivision map hasn't even been filed. So the use variance was already granted. The only thing we'd like to change is we'd like to make a request to modify the side yard setbacks from 7 feet to 6 feet. So we're really only looking for that bulk variance relief. Like I said, the use variance was granted, and with that, I'd ask to have Brian Flannery sworn.
Flannery, do you swear or affirm that the whole thing will be done?
I do. Brian Flannery, Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer, professional planner. As Miriam indicated, it's a very simple application. We have this property on the south side of Route 88. It was already approved for the 6 duplex units. It was approved at 7 foot wide. That leaves 23 foot wide duplex units. The applicant is requesting 6 foot on each side, so we would have 24 foot wide units. Architectural plans were submitted. There's no staircase on the sides of the units. So that's normally one of the things with having the 7 feet is to have enough room for the stairway. There are no stairways. With respect to the stairways going to the attic, we don't have any of them. The architectural plans clearly show there's a front entrance to the house, front entrance to the basement. In order to get to the upper floors, you go in the middle of the house, you go up, and you go up to the attic. So there'll be no attic rentals.
Will terminates at the second floor?
Well, if you look at the plan, the front entrance comes into the house at the front, and there's basement steps. It shows the steps also. The owners have stairs that go to the basement.
No side door?
No side door. And that's why we're asking for.
So why do you need an extra foot?
So we have 24 foot wide instead of 23 foot wide. The furniture fits better in the 24 foot wide instead of the 23 foot. Yes. We have to get special IKEA furniture in order to get it to 24. So you need custom made furniture for the 23. So
and the air conditioners where are going?
The air conditioners.
In the back?
Typically would be on this side of the house. If the board requires them to be in the back, we put them in the back.
Okay.
It's certainly more energy efficient to have them on the side. It's more appropriate. And with the 6 foot, there, having the HVAC units on the side, you still have access.
How far is the window well?
They're typical window wells that are going to be out 3 feet.
And the HVAC within that?
Yes. 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 The window wells are close to 3 foot. The HVAC units we would stipulate would also be less than 3 feet. So it'll leave 3 foot walkway on each side.
Okay.
So the justification for the variances is master plan of 2017 and the municipal land use law JAC 40:55D2 under the purpose of the act encourages the selection to guide appropriate use and development. These are C2 variances, and we need to require them to proceed.
I'll tell you guys an honest truth that in a situation like this, there have been a number of homes that we have given at 6 feet. And if I say no, I'm not going to
We would like to have an experiment. After a year and a half of not seeing you, I'm happy to see you and have a roll.
We saw it, but only, in the back of a taxi or something, on a screen. Oh, a limo, sorry.
The limo that I paid for at Davis Car Rental. You can drive. Anyone who probably want to be here on this application. Please step up. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Brian, is it possible to stagger the wells on the ones that are in between, just so they're not lined up with each other? Because there's a little bit more space in between if you do it that way. Especially with the AC units, or
the window wells?
Yeah.
I don't know how we would stack it.
Well, you would offset them a little bit. The window wells, it's an unfinished basement, so no room over there specifically that you're designing for. You just happen to put the window wells over there. You can move one that and one across them, and it's 2 feet up.
Well, what do you mean? The basements are finished prior to closing. They have these basements are not. Well, they will be prior to closing.
And the designer can be counted.
What was your question?
I'm asking if the one to be staggered, with a little bit more space between, instead of having one over here, and then the one across, instead of putting them directly across, we put them offset.
That's what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it gives a little bit more space back.
It gives a little more space, so it's
I personally, as Weinstein, I personally live in a house such that it gives a little bit, it's very.
No, I totally understand your point. I just want to be realistic. There are going to be apartments in those basements.
I totally understand, but.
So I just don't know, we certainly will try. I just don't know how it's going to fit with the layouts. In other words, those windows have to fit with the layouts of the particular rooms that they're going to be. It's not like it's going to be, just a big open playroom.
I understand that, but I don't think, honestly, I don't think that, specifically, unless except for maybe one that, you don't have to, unless perhaps one is going to be a bathroom, the other ones can be open.
We can certainly try. I don't think the applicant would have any objection. As long as it works with the layouts in the basements, the applicant has no objection to it.
This, you'll try.
Right, exactly. We will try.
I'll talk to the architect.
We've opened to the public. We're close to the public. Okay.
Okay.
Can I have a motion on any other on this? Motion to approve. Motion to approve. I'll second. Okay. With the motion with stipulation or the slightly. Try it fast. Okay.
I didn't hear. Who made the motion, please? I didn't hear.
Tommy made a motion.
I'm gonna roll that. Second.
You will go. You and I.
Aaron Natali and Mayor Gelli. Yes. Okay. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli.
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland.
Yes.
Mr. Natale.
Yes.
Mr. Vivian.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Yes. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes. Good night. For the record, Natali has to leave now. And he will not be here for the next application, which is Moshe's son, 4193.
You're forgetting about Mr. Situation. Stand up and wave this way. You did the church.
It doesn't, we don't need to use variance on this one either. We're good.
You did. He's understanding you didn't even hear. He's 16 months old. Okay, go ahead. Mrs. Weinstein. Mrs. Weinstein, can we move forward?
Yes, we can move forward. 1 second, I'm waiting for Fran to read into the record, and then we will
Single
proceed.
family home requesting variance of 1 yard setback for Lakewood Drive, 1 side yard setback. I think this is a two-front.
Yes.
Yes. I see it. I see it.
Correct.
Mr. Lyon, did you raise your rating? You finished rating? Wait for it. Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth?
Thank you much. Mr. Chairman, can I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks so much. Miriam Weinstein on behalf of the applicant Moshe Sutton. This application is what we call a classic spot lot case. The applicant has an undersized lot on Woodland Drive upon which he would like to build a new home. The lot has only 7,667 square feet, but is located in the R12 zone, and hence the necessity for the variance relief. The lot width of 50 feet is an existing condition where 90 feet is required. Because of these constraints, the applicant is also seeking side yard setback relief. In addition, as was pointed out earlier, the lot does have dual frontage on both Lakeview Drive and Woodland. So we are seeking front yard setback relief for the deck, which is actually in the back of the house, but it's considered to be within the front yard setback because of the dual frontage. We have sent buy-sell letters. We've given a copy to Fran, to all of the neighbors. We have not received any responses from anyone either being interested in purchasing the applicant's lot or in selling them a piece of their property in order to lessen the nonconformity. With that, I'm going to turn to Mr. Lyons, who's already been sworn.
Good to see you. We are requesting 2 variances. One is for a rear yard setback, as Ms. Weinstein pointed out, because of the reverse frontage. We are proposing 23 feet, I believe it is, where 30 feet is required. That is just a reasonable house with 4 parking spaces and that kind of house. The side yard setbacks, 10 is required on each side. Each neighbor will get the required 10, which is some, we're requesting variance for the accommodation, the extra 5 feet. I don't believe there's a big impact on the neighbors, especially because it's our exercise artist situation.
One question. I'm looking at your envelope over here, and I see that the 30 feet doesn't match up at all to the rear of the deck. Is that correct?
That's correct. The deck extends into the 30 feet on the width.
Of course, the whole width of the deck.
Mr. Chairman, just to point out, the applicant, if the board would prefer, the applicant would not mind to shift the house forward to 30 feet at the front yard setback instead of being set back 36 feet, and they can actually avoid the whole variance in the rear yard setback.
But is that under the park?
So, well, he'd have to, yeah, the parking, how can we do the blend with the parking?
Yeah, under the park.
If we moved it forward, we'd have 3 spaces across and 1 going up this side of the house about 5 or 6 feet.
No. Let me ask you a question. We're looking at this envelope over here, the 30-foot envelope, right? If I want to say 25 feet, where on this line would I get 25 feet? A third way across the deck, halfway across the deck? Where would 25 feet be?
Well, it's now 2357.
Right, so we need 1 more foot. Would you say that if I move over a foot, it reaches at, what's the incline? 1/4 of an inch, half an inch? No. I'm at 2357 at the corner of the deck, right? Now I'm walk across the deck, right? Where do I reach 25 feet?
Probably, without measuring it, probably 5 feet over.
5 feet over, I'm at 25. Right, so I'm at 25 at 5 feet over, so from there on, and what am I at the corner, all the way over? Am I at 28 feet?
Where the S is in setback?
Yes. The D is in setback, right?
You're almost 30 feet.
29 feet? Where am I there?
Without measuring it, you're over 30 feet. I just looked straight
I
across
can't be over,
on
the
it.
line is there, so I can't be over. So I'm about, from here to the back is about 29 feet. I'm trying to get a visual.
Oh,
of how-
I'm sorry.
you know.
I see. Yeah, that's probably 28 feet. Right?
28 feet. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Anyone have any questions about this?
Yeah, quick question. From the stairways going down the side to the property lines, how many feet?
5 feet.
So it's 5 feet stairs, 5 feet.
Yes.
There's no stairs.
There's stairs.
There's stairs on the,
These stairs? These stairs, yeah. Oh. This, you guys for this variance. You know, for this variance. Nice for this variance application.
Is there 2 apartments in the basement?
Yeah. It's only for the back. Okay. Okay.
There's 2 apartments in the basement?
No, one.
Just one. Exactly. There's 1 stairwell, there's 1 from the outside and 1 from the inside. Right? And that goes down, because you have master bedroom, bedroom 2, and on the other side you have bedroom 1, playroom. I mean,
That's probably for the,
Wow.
that's for the upstairs of the house.
is that the upstairs?
The applicant's here, I'll let him testify.
Because those stairs are
Yes.
coming from the outside.
If they want you to talk, we'll ask.
Is that, those stairs are coming from the outside?
If there's a playroom next to a bedroom 1, the bedroom 1 would be against the upstairs.
There's a doorway that
Right.
goes from the outside, that goes to that stairwell.
But it's just a playroom and it's just a playroom and a bedroom. There's no kitchen.
There's an outside entrance that stairway that goes straight to the basement.
Right.
And it looks like there's walls separating both sides of the basement. Is there going to be?
Well, you want to, let's have him refer, so let me have Mr. Sutton.
You have a bathroom on the other
Okay, well, I'll
side?
have him refer.
That's the basement plan? Yeah, look at.
Sir, raise your right hand. You affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God.
I do.
And give us your full name for the rest.
Moshe Sutton, S-U-T-T-O-N.
Can you just tell the board, are there going to be 2 apartments in the basement or 1?
There will be only one.
So you, right, I'm looking at the plans, is one side, is the entire basement gonna be rented as an apartment?
No, only part of it.
Okay, what's the other part?
It's gonna belong to me. There's a bedroom and a bathroom and a playroom.
Bedrooms, I see, what's gonna be a playroom? Okay. Now, there's an outside entrance that goes into the right?
Oh, Lisa's staircase goes
It goes
up
to
and down,
the
yeah.
outside, it goes to the basement, correct? Does that also go upstairs?
Yes.
Okay, is there an attic here?
Unfinished.
Okay, where's the stairwell to the attic? It goes from the
Same
second floor straight up.
It's the staircase of the house.
Right, it goes from the outside to the basement, to the first floor, second floor, and then to the attic, same stairwell.
Yeah.
That's still what, terminated.
That's terminated.
You can't have that basement, that's still going up to the attic. Okay. All right, does anyone have any questions, can I have a motion? We close to the motion.
There's no name on it.
I see one person with a white hair.
Brian, do you object?
I know Mr. Langry's not here. Do we agree, does the applicant agree to have the front of the building, 1/3 stuccos?
Yes, yes. I already told him about that.
Okay, I'm still waiting for a motion.
I make a motion to approve this application.
Motion from Mayor Gelli.
I'll second.
Who seconded that? Morty wrote second. Madam Secretary, roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Lieberman.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbiat.
Yes, I just want to.
Rose.
I just want to reiterate, you have stairwell, right? Okay. Good night, good luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay, go ahead. Can I have a motion for resolutions? Yes.
One change I want to make on the resolution, and Mr. Flannery brought that to my attention. When it comes to the stairway, I put in the resolution that the stairway going to the second floor and the stairway going from the second floor to the attic should be at least 10 feet away. But, go ahead.
Yeah, just the way it's worded, if it's an internal stair, it would still have to be 10 feet away. I'm suggesting language which I had given to Jerry to say that if it's an exterior stair, it has to be 10 feet away, so that the stair to the attic has to be at least 10 feet away from an exterior wall.
So.
And also the first part of it, that's the normal condition, and you can't have an exterior stair unless the attic.
But how do we know, how would you make sure that the stairway going from the first to the second floor would not be connected to the stairway to the attic?
Well, if it's an internal stairway, the board doesn't have a concern, because the concern is that somebody gets from the outside to the attic without going through your house.
I think you want to contiguous this, because if you go, I don't know the measurements, but you're gonna be 10 feet away, but I go like this.
Yeah,
First floor, second floor, and like that, then I go like that to the third floor, I'm done.
Yeah, but you have to start from the inside. I can show you the architectural plans that.
If somebody has, one second. No. If somebody has a open set of stairs, somebody has a nice set of stairs, right? Goes all the way up.
That's all, it's pretty good closure.
So we'll say that's the open set of stairs. Open set of stairs.
Let's see what he wants to
So,
know.
I emphasize this, so I get a side door where it goes right up. But if it's in the middle of the house, right behind your table, it's.
And I wanted a two-part thing, the one that says you can't have exterior stairs that go up to the attic. And then just to reinforce that.
Okay, if you do that, then you solve my problem.
Yeah.
If it's a two-part thing, then you solve.
What are you doing, man?
So it's two parts. It's the first part that's been in all the other ones. that there's no exterior entrance there that goes up to the attic. And then the second part of it is that any stairway to the attic has to be 10 feet away. So if you're doing one that's along from the exterior, that can't go to the attic.
Right.
If you do one from the interior, it has to be 10 feet from an exterior wall.
And we don't have that here?
No, it's.
Email him, Mark.
I will email.
I think we could name that the blind side room.
Yeah, and we have the language.
That won't go good for my eldest son.
Brian, can I see those blueprints there?
Yes.
All right, can we approve this resolution with that condition, with that modification?
I want to look at all the blueprints.
Get a motion to
Guys,
approve.
I move to approve. Wait, shut there, okay? Wait. The stairs, this is the stairs that you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just bring this up? Okay. So these set of stairs, if I'm coming into this front door, I have a foyer, I have a study here, I have a bathroom here, I have a living room here, then I have a mudroom here, and I have stairs, right?
Yes.
This is the side, this is the main door. So no one's coming in from here, right? So this is what you're referring to.
Yes.
No one's coming in to go up the second floor. Yeah.
We all agree with that.
That's perfectly on the second floor. That is correct. Fine. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we're motion to approve with the adjustments.
Don't forget the picture.
Okay, thank you.
Pay bills.
Can I have a motion to pay bills? Thank you. Good night. Good night, everybody. We'll be adjourned. Close.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, did you get my email from this morning?